everyone! Sorry about that. Our power went out. Our power went out earlier today, and it seemed like it got resolved, but it just went off for like another 10 minutes or so. So if that happens again, I apologize. But it seems like it's back on as of now. Knock on wood. So hopefully we can get back to it. And I'll just re-go over the ones we already went over real quick. There were only 2 of them, so at least it happened early in the stream. So back to it. Okay. I know I do have to get the flower crown. I didn't forget that. There's the flower. Where's the crown? There it is. Oh, in this thing. Whoop. Okie dokie. Anyway, back to it. So, what had we already gone over? We had gone over, if I can get this to reposition again, and I can get rid of Boxy. There we go. Alright, 500 Days of Summer. Fun twist on a rom-com where it's not really a rom-com. The main character thinks it is, but it's actually a story about listening to your partner and understanding that your expectations aren't necessarily the expectations of someone that you like. .com for Murder. Film that tries to be Rear Window so bad that it turns into a shitty 90s cyber thriller. Corny, fun, dumb, not necessarily worth it unless you're really into early 2000s cyber cheese like I am, but interesting nonetheless. The Daniel Craig Bond films. I've only seen the first one of these and Spectre. I've seen parts of, I think, some of the other ones. I'm not huge into the James Bond stuff. I do like Casino Royale. It's a solid movie in and of itself, but I don't really have a connection to the franchise enough to, like, care about the legacy or origin of James Bond. He's just a spy guy, but it's a well-made action film from the time, and Spectre was good. 10 Cloverfield Lane. My personal favorite John Goodman performance. Amazing, suspenseful horror film that relies upon isolation and the social terror of being locked up with someone who is basically an abusive narcissist. Pretty scary. It also deals with the duality of, like, oh, you're amongst a monster now. Would it be safer to go outside where there might be other kinds of monsters rather than be locked up with this monster? Pretty solid. Would recommend to basically anyone who enjoys thrillers, horror, John Goodman, and good movies in general. 10 Things I Hate About You. I haven't seen this one in a long time, but of course, one of the famous performances of Heath Ledger prior to one of his final performances as the Joker. It's a cute movie. I think this is an adaptation of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, but sort of a vague... You know how in the 90s they did a lot of 90s reimaginings of Shakespeare, but in the modern world? Like, Lerman's Romeo and Juliet. I think there was a modern Hamlet adaptation. They did a lot of that. 10 Things I Hate About You is in a similar vein. Taming of the Shrew. West Side Story, that was the 60s, but modern retelling nonetheless for the time. Solid movie, fun. I still remember the scene where Heath Ledger's character is on the bleachers and sings, oh gosh, what's the song? Da, 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 da. Can't take my eyes off of you. That song. I think that's a great rom-com scene. Cute. 101 Dalmatians. This, I think, was actually the first film I saw in theaters, was 101 Dalmatians, if I remember correctly. It may have been a re-release. I'm actually not sure the exact year this came out. Oh yeah, the 60s. Definitely a re-release then that I saw in theaters. Sometime in the 90s. I enjoy 101 Dalmatians because of its particular style that's a little bit different than some of the other Disney animations of the period. It has this really sketchy look, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that the outlines of the characters have kind of a sketchy quality. And I think it works really well for the narrative they're telling. It takes place in sort of a post-industrialized city in the UK. I think it works really well for that setting, and one of the only Disney films where you see a high-speed car chase. So that's fun. 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men, one of the best films of all time in terms of just being people in a room talking. It's the pinnacle of a movie that could be a stage play. It might even have been based on a stage play. Don't know, but it works either way. Excellent. Carried by the performances, but that's what the movie's about, so. Live action versus animation, which 101 Dalmatians is better? I mean, I think the 60s version is better, but the 90s one is a different kind of movie. I like it. It's like a 90s, just a 90s family adventure with some rom-com elements. I do like Cruella de Vil in that movie. I don't think I get it quite as much as other people do. I know that it's like hailed as like, oh my gosh, the woman whose name I forget who plays Cruella in that movie, she's so iconic for it. I thought it was fine. But it's okay. 12 Monkeys. Time travel movie. Who did 12 Monkeys? Hold on. I think for a second I almost confused it with Brazil. 12 Monkeys is the one with Bruce Willis. It is a Terry Gilliam film, though. That's what I was looking for. I like Terry Gilliam in general. I like the surrealist quality that he brings to his movies. Something like The Fisher King. I think The Fisher King's probably my favorite movie by him. I don't have a ton to say about 12 Monkeys. I'm not the biggest Bruce Willis fan. He's fine in this. But, like, my favorite thing he ever did was Die Hard. Everything, like, other than that has just been kind of so. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Very early silent film. There's not really a ton to talk about. Mostly have this just for interesting historical archival purposes. Neat to look at if you're into the history of film. Forrest Espion with 16 months says, hear of the movie Christian 3D animated mess of a movie, Mystery Kingdom of God, had a whole animation team, but the directors wrote, voice act all the characters. Here's the trailer and clips of sexy anime Satan. Alright.
When is the time I will return to Earth? Soon, my beloved son. Very soon. Beneath throne room seats are still empty. He has filled himself with the lust of the flesh and of the eyes. Leave Eric. Who should I call?
Call the young man Andre.
He has a destiny now.
Could you turn on more light?
This guy makes you feel relaxed.
Oh no!
I have a proposition for you. Do not play your Christian jargon here at this concert, Miss Chow.
Am I wrong? But they're sure my faith is correct.
Oh
Why
no!
do we need the Holy Spirit?
Like, I'm not gonna say the animation is great, because it's, like, not, but I've certainly seen worse. Like, the voice acting is, like, 70% worse than the animation. It doesn't match at all.
Come, the kingdom of darkness.
Stop the son.
It is for me.
If we disobey him, he threatens
The witch oh, oh god, it's just racism too.
to kill the children and destroy them.
Did you know that other people's local religions are demonic? And in fact, they need to be changed to Christianity because, again, converting people has historically gone great.
See?
Oh god.
If God gave me that power,
I'd be 10 times better than them.
I don't like Dylan. You know he's got pride and jealousy issues.
Oh God, please help me!
Jesus. Come,
I want to show you something.
My lord, who are these powerful warriors?
These are my warrior brides. You'll be one of them.
What the fuck? This is a cult. Oh my god, he had a gun. Alright, let's see the sexy Jesus. Or sexy Satan. Oh! Is it goth Satan? Oh my god, it's Hot Topic Satan. Yeah, you can't do that. You're gonna make people thirsty. You can't make Satan goth. People like goths. Oh god, it doesn't want to load anymore. Probably for the best. Alright, back to the movie list. What's next? 21 Jump Street. We'll talk about this alongside 22 Jump Street since they are next to each other. 1 second. Let's switch to the next thing. 21 Jump Street came out in 2012. Wow, is this over a decade old at this point? Jesus Christ. Funny movies. Really weird considering it's a premise that has been tons of times terribly. What if we take a familiar franchise from decades past and try and turn it into a movie, even though it was a TV show, and like none of the original actors are coming back except for cameos? Look at Baywatch if you want to see how this can be done poorly, or the Beverly Hillbillies, or any of the myriad of various other nostalgia tie-in 60s, 70s, 80s TV show to movie adaptations of the last 40 years. Basically, it's a meta-commentary on reboots, and then just has some fun bits about high school in the 80s and 90s versus high school in the 2010s. Funny enough, sequel does basically the same thing, but with college. Enjoyable. 30 Rock. I don't have a lot of in-depth things to say about this one other than funny. I generally found it funny. I like Tina Fey. Alec Baldwin's pretty funny in it. I like Kenneth. That's about it. 300. One of Zack Snyder's quote-unquote good films. You ever notice that Zack Snyder's quote-unquote good films are based off of comic books, where he just, note for note, panel for panel, turns them into films? I get the feeling that he's maybe bad at narrative, and accidentally made I don't know if I can even say accidentally. It's just kind of what 300 is. 300 is really weird and fashy. It just is. And I'm not saying that was the intent of Snyder, I just think he accidentally does that. I think it's interesting, but it's not a movie for me. I don't like it personally, but it is what it is. Oh look, 4 Clint Eastwood films. Dirty Harry, Magnum Force, The Enforcer, and Sudden Impact. I've never seen them. Can't speak to them. They're in my collection. Haven't seen them yet. Forrest Espion says, Hannah, if I purchased you that Christian 3D with sexy goth Satan, would Twitch allow you to stream if as long as you comment over it? Not in its entirety, probably, no. Have I seen the sequel? You thought it was better than the original? Wait, the sequel to what? Oh, 300? No. Will Smith's I Am Legend, a remake of the famous film Last Man on Earth. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good remake. I don't think it's a good story on its own. Not necessarily Will Smith's fault. Not talking about the guy here anyway. There's so much shit going on with the celebrity drama I don't care about. Basically a zombie or vampire movie, but doesn't do either well. And the ending was ruined because they thought the original ending was too depressing. Guess what? Stupid audiences who take part in these surveys. Some movies end depressingly. Grow up. The alternate ending is so much better than the original ending. It literally explains the I Am Legend. The title doesn't even make sense without the original ending. Jesus. I should explain real quick. If you're unfamiliar with the actual ending that was originally there, and the ending that's supposed to be, The title I Am Legend is supposed to be a reference to the fact at the end of the movie originally, Will Smith realized, oh my god, I might think I'm doing a good thing by capturing these zombie vampire things and, like, experimenting on them. But from their perspective, they're intelligent. They don't live like humans did, but they exist as beings. And I am, during the daytime, when they can't come out, kidnapping some of them effectively, bringing them to my lair and experimenting on them. Yeah, these zombie things are attacking my home, but it's not because, like, they're mindless animals. It's because from their perspective, I'm a monster. I'm basically a vampire to them. They're living and, like, hunting deer and stuff. Humanity's over. Will Smith is clinging on to this, like, history of humanity and wanting to bring it back when the world has moved on. There's already a new society of whatever these zombie things are that are intelligent, and him kidnapping them and fucking with them and hunting them isn't bringing humanity back. It's just making him a monster. Yeah, am I the bad guy? Yeah. Except in the new ending, no, he's fine. He sacrifices himself, and humans get away to save humanity somewhere else. Stupid change. V for Vendetta. Only seen it once a long time ago. It's fine. A little cringe with how the imagery's been appropriated by weirdos, but it's fine. Haven't seen Blade. Constantine. Really great movie. I know they're doing a sequel with Keanu now, which is exciting. I know it's different than the comics, but enjoyable movie. What's the correlation between those four movies? Early 2000s action, owned by Warner Brothers, would be my guess. The Matrix films. Alright, first Matrix, pretty great. There's some stuff that hasn't aged well, but it's over 20 years old, so that's gonna happen. Really good movie. Written and directed by the Wachowski sisters, two trans women. Awesome stuff. Matrix Reloaded. Has some fun ideas. Disappointing overall. Matrix Revolutions. Fucking awful. Hate it. Hate Matrix Revolutions. Don't make me watch Matrix Revolutions. I fucking hate it. Animatrix. Great. Probably the best Matrix film. The Animatrix is probably the best Matrix film, no offense. I gotta turn a fan on. Why are you confused? Is it because it's anime? How dare you? How dare you point out my hypocrisy? 48 Hours, an 80s sort of buddy cop film where the premise is Eddie Murphy and the other guy whose name I'm forgetting, something, Nick Nolte. Basically Eddie Murphy's like a criminal and Nick Nolte brings him out of jail to help solve a crime. It's fine. 80s buddy cop, but the other cop's like a criminal comedy action dynamic. It's fine. Haven't seen the sequel, but it's bundled in there. Dr. Seuss is the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. I think this is the only live-action movie Dr. Seuss worked on in his lifetime. It's creepy. It's creepy. Can I show you some stuff from that real quick? Jesus, this is bad quality. Bad trailer, too.
It happens in an amazing castle with a tickle-em-to-death torture chamber and a 500-player piano with 480,000 keys.
Basically, the premise is a kid falls asleep at piano lessons and has a dream. That's the plot of the movie, where his piano teacher is an evil villain who kidnaps children and forces them to play the piano. It's surreal, it's creepy, just weird.
It's a musical merry-go-round, sparkling with songs and dances, whirling you away to a new world of wonders.
Have a smoke. Have a cigar.
Don't mind if I do.
Something to eat. Something to drink.
Dr. T is sweet on Mrs. C. So is Mr. Z, the plumber, who fixes sinks and knows all the angles.
When the plumbers of Ladowski has installed the last sink, I want him disintegrated. Atom by atom.
See the dangerous descent from the sky-high ladder. See the whammy duel between Dr. T and Mr. Z. See the eighth wonder of the cinema world, the startling, daring Wonderama in color by Technicolor.
That's what it is. It's live-action Dr. Seuss kind of stuff. So if you want to see Dr. Seuss stuff done in the 60s, in live action, that's your best bet. Check it out. 51st Dates, one of the only Adam Sandler movies made by his production company that I actually enjoy. Now, that said, tons of problematic shit because it's an Adam Sandler movie he produced, and Adam Sandler is an immature man-child whose sense of humor seems to revolve around making fun of people different than himself. However, I can't lie, I like this movie, it's nostalgic, and I like Drew Barrymore. Sorry. She's shit, though. She did the scab thing. So that's unfortunate. But I already own the movie, so. Oh god, Planet of the Apes. I have to go over every single one of these fuckers. 9 movies. Okay, here we go. I need a list so I can... Okay, so the 9 Planet of the Apes movies that are out as of now. Let me take a look so I can do them in order. This is a nice box set, by the way. It does something I've never seen other box sets do. This probably wasn't intentional, it was probably just because that's the sizes they came in. But it comes with not only all the movies that have already come out, there's actually blank spaces. So if there's more movies, I can put them in. Again, not saying that's intentional, but it works out. I like this box anyway. It has all the Planet of the Apes movies. Alright, original Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes film. Screenplay by Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame. The first Planet of the Apes movie basically is just a feature-length episode of The Twilight Zone. It's really good. If you've never seen it, I'd recommend it. No spoilers, although it's basically impossible to get not spoiled on this movie at this point, but it is what it is. Beneath the Planet of the Apes. One of the worst sequels I've ever seen in my life. They just didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with it. They couldn't get Charlton Heston back for the whole thing, so he's in like 5 minutes at the beginning and end, and then another guy shows up who's basically just Charlton Heston again, who does the same stuff as the first Charlton Heston character, but it's the second one, and done worse. And then they blow up the planet at the end of the movie. So, then they gotta go to... Let's see. Somewhere we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes, you'd think. Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Escape from the Planet of the Apes is another good one. More of a comedic slant. The premise is that a couple of the main characters, the apes, Zira and Cornelius, from the first 2 Planet of the Apes movies, make it off the Planet of the Apes before it explodes and land on Earth in the 1970s, become celebrities, and there's a lot of social commentary, satire stuff. It's not as good as the first one, but it's at least fun. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Oh god, is that the James Franco one? These are in weird orders in here. Get to that one later. Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Fine explanation for what's going on and why the apes came to power. It's a prequel, it's fine. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, honestly pretty boring. Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, great effects, terrible story. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the worst of the new trilogy, the one with James Franco. He sucks. Andy Serkis is great. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, The next one, really good. The effects are some of the best creature, like CG stuff I've ever seen. Andy Serkis again, killing it. And War for the Planet of the Apes. Not as good as the last one, but still pretty good. Decent ending to that trilogy. Alright. That's the Planet of the Apes movies. Oh, shit-ass balls. Can't believe you've done this. I don't know, I'll deal with that later. Raptor Blue, thanks for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Check out Raptor Blue. Raiders, today for a reward from the subathon we just did, I'm going over all the movies in my collection. I have over 2,000, so we're going to be here a while. Be nice to your chat. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. 8 Mile. Haven't seen it in a long time. I thought it was fine. Nothing in particular stuck out to me. The rap battle scenes are interesting. You don't see a lot of movie rap battle scenes. Didn't leave a huge impression on me other than that. The Abominable Dr. Phibes. Fun movie from Vincent Price. The premise of that one is sort of that his wife died on the operating table and he decides to take revenge upon the surgeons that he blames for her death. There's some precursor to Saw type stuff in there with like a trap with I believe a guillotine in there. A bit similar to The Pit and the Pendulum, I guess. But you get it. He's trying to take revenge and has some traps and stuff. The sequel, Dr. Phibes Rises Again, is weird. He decides to try and take his dead wife or something, like to Egypt, in order to try and raise her from the dead. Not as good. Still, Vincent Price, though. You can't really lose there. About Time. Time travel rom-com that has to do less with the time travel and more to do with just life in general. The precious moments we have with the people we love. Probably make you cry. Check it out. I'm gonna butcher this. Hold on. Acción Mutante. This is a Spanish film, Spanish-speaking film. I think it's from Mexico. It's about a mutant. Haven't seen that one. Adaptation. Adaptation's one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies. It's also a Charlie Kaufman film. Charlie Kaufman's famous for surrealist works, Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, of course. I'm thinking of Ending Things, which was on Netflix, Synecdoche, New York. He's great. He's a very introspective filmmaker who thinks about existential topics. Adaptation is sort of a movie that's meta about how meta it is. It's a movie about Charlie Kaufman writing the movie you're watching. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's a movie about Charlie Kaufman writing the screenplay for adaptation, but you're watching the movie about him doing it. There's some unreliable narrator stuff going on. It's really enjoyable. Just watch it. I don't want to spoil stuff. Just watch it. It's good. Nicolas Cage playing dual roles as Charlie Kaufman and his twin brother, who definitely really exists in real life and doesn't just exist as a metaphor for Charlie Kaufman's two different sides of his personality. Okay. Addams Family and Addams Family Values. What is there to even say about these? Similar to 21 and 22 Jump Street, some of the only movies that are made out of like a 60s TV show that are actually entertaining in their own right. You don't need to know anything about the original Addams Family nor the original comic strips to get it. Just fun movies. And Christina Ricci. Come on. Come on. And Raul Julia as Gomez. God damn. Okay. After that, Adjust Your Tracking, The Untold Story of the VHS Collector. Haven't seen this one yet. One of you guys recently sent this to me. I'm excited to watch it, though. Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. I know I've seen this at some point, but I barely remember it. I know it involves Gene Wilder playing Sherlock Holmes' brother, who tries to bumble his way through a mystery. Don't remember much else, but I know I like Gene Wilder. So. No, not Mycroft. It's supposed to be like a third stupid brother. It's not like a real character from the canon. It's a made-up character for the movie. Adventure Time and the sequel movie things. Adventure Time's great, though I've only seen like half of the show, so I haven't seen the after movies or the end of the series. Please don't spoil me. But I enjoy the show and plan to actually finish it at some point. The Adventures of Batman. This is the 1960s animated series. It's not that good, if I'm being honest, but it's like the first animated series of the show, so it's interesting as a historical piece. Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's a Robert Rodriguez kids movie. I enjoy it. It's batshit insane. The concepts are just, how do you even come up with this stuff? How many drugs are you doing? It's fun and nostalgic. Air Force One. All I remember is Harrison Ford saying, "Get off my plane." I own it, though, so I guess it was fine enough for me to buy it. Remember, Chad, I've been collecting since early high school, so it's been over 10 years. Some of these I haven't seen in a while. Airplane and Airplane 2, the sequel. Airplane is one of the funniest, in my view. Comedy is subjective and it ages terribly, so I can understand someone younger than me watching Airplane and not thinking it's funny at all. Airplane still makes me laugh, though. I think it's hilarious. I think the Zucker brothers were some of the only people who could do spoof well. They're pretty good. Airplane 2 is not as good, but it's fun. Also William Shatner, so what's not to love? Have not seen the Airport movies. Someone got me that collection a while back. These are the movies, in part, that Airplane was based off of. Airport disaster films. Akira, haven't seen it yet. Aladdin, one of my favorite Disney animated movies when I was a kid. I don't know if I appreciate it quite as much as an adult. There's some interesting stuff in there, like this is the period where Disney was experimenting more, kind of in that post-Beauty and the Beast era, where they're still trying to integrate 3D animation and 2D animation into scenes together. The Cave of Wonders being the prime example of this. So I think there's visually interesting stuff. Robin Williams' performance as the genie is iconic. I just find, as an adult, Aladdin to be a very unlikable character. Doesn't really feel like he learns anything. I don't know. Aladdin, The Return of Jafar, and Aladdin, the King of Thieves. I actually maybe like these a little bit better in some cases, but also it makes Aladdin's character seems even worse. Because in the first Aladdin movie, the character arc of Aladdin is basically, don't lie to Jasmine. And okay, by the end of that movie, you could argue maybe he learns that lesson. But then the sequel movies, and also the TV show that took place between Return of Jafar and the King of Thieves, like there was a whole series in there. Return of Jafar was basically the pilot episode. Then there was a whole animated series that aired on the Disney Channel. And then the King of Thieves was like the movie finale, the feature-length finale. They turned Aladdin's key character trait into lying in every episode and subsequent movie, which, like, okay, I get that that was a thing in the first movie, because that's, like, his character flaw he's getting over. But if every episode he's relearning that lesson, does he ever really learn the lesson? Kind of just feels like Jasmine's making bad life decisions. But, whatever. Oh boy, the Alfred Hitchcock stuff. I gotta talk about the ones that I've seen. This is the ones that I've seen. I actually got this one not having seen these because I just like Alfred Hitchcock and been wanting to get... Excuse me. Been wanting to get more into some of his other thrillers and suspense stuff I haven't seen. So I can't really speak about those. But I can speak about Volume 1. Okay, Rear Window, starring James Stewart, famously has his leg broken. Outside of the rear window of his house, he believes he's witnessing a crime. Been parodied a ton of times. Literally earlier on this list, I talked about a movie that was basically a ripoff / pastiche, depending on how generous you want to be. Classic movie. Not much I can say that hasn't already been said. Really great. Psycho is, of course... At the time, it was one of Hitchcock's more controversial films. I don't even think it was looked that favorably upon when it came out, other than it being shocking. But of course, upon reevaluation, it's now seen as one of his most popular films because it's incredibly accessible and, of course, is a precursor to what we know as the slasher genre today, along with things like Peeping Tom, Black Christmas, etc. Alice, Sweet Alice. Solid. And Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates. Sorry, lots of names today. Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates, is the glue that holds that series together, because there are 4 Psycho films, and he is the linchpin. Don't get me wrong, that first film is directed... I don't even know how to describe it. It's directed... I want to say skillfully, but also with budget in mind. It does a lot with a little, if that makes sense. And that's pretty incredible. They shot it with their TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and sometimes I think that shows. The scene with the car dealership definitely feels a little, TV showy to me. Feels a little bit like a scene from a Twilight Zone episode almost, but considering what they were working with, pretty incredible feat. Recommended. Oh, and The Birds. The Birds is a great movie if you hate birds, or like to watch people run away from birds. It's honestly pretty impressive just how much it must have taken to wrangle all the goddamn birds. Another recommend. Alice in Wonderland first. Alice in Wonderland, not my favorite adaptation of the book. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is one of my favorite books. I read it when I was a kid, and I have just been obsessed ever since. I love the nonsense language. I like stuff like the Jabberwock poem, you know? I like the playing with language that Lewis Carroll did. Disney's Alice in Wonderland is disappointing to me. Don't know why. Don't know if it's just a lot of the dialogue is taken out, just because it's a kid's movie, so a lot of it's visual. I much prefer another version in my collection that was a live-action one from the 90s. Martin Short plays the Mad Hatter in it. I liked that one. That's probably my favorite. But Alice in Wonderland is visually cool. It's a Disney film, so of course, but substantively, not the one I would go to if I was going to show someone the story of Alice in Wonderland. Alice, Sweet Alice, another precursor to the modern slasher movie, or at least the 80s slasher movie. This was a 70s film. If you've ever seen one of those masks for Halloween that's like a clear mask, but maybe there's some like makeup on it, that's what this movie is, what that's from, or at the very least, this movie famously used that mask. I don't want to say too much without spoiling, but if you're interested in the history of horror, in particular the history of slasher films prior to Texas Chainsaw and Halloween, check out Alice, Sweet Alice. The Alien collection. I love Alien. Great horror film. That H.R. Giger design is timeless. One of the best designs for a creature ever. Aliens is a fun action movie, although I prefer the horror tone of the first one, but I get it, you don't want to just do the same thing again. Third one, okay, alright, I can deal with it being kind of dreary in a prison planet. I get it, I see what you're doing here. Alright, I'm not sure which cut of the film I'd prefer. I know there's a couple. I'm not even sure if I've seen the assembly cut, but Alien Resurrection is dog shit. I don't like it. It does make me laugh. I do like Brad Dourif, so at the end of Alien Resurrection, when Brad Dourif has gone completely insane, and he's like talking about this alien-human hybrid and calling it a baby, I can't say it doesn't make me laugh, but is that what it's supposed to do? Probably not. And then the Prometheus and Alien whatever the one was after Prometheus. Alien whatever the fuck. Not a fan. Not a fan. Didn't like them. Isolation. Alien Isolation. I don't even know if there's a good way to make an Alien movie anymore. I think we've been there and done that. I don't know how much there is to do with it at this point. But please just stop doing the same thing. We've seen it. Fennikagami says, "Hey Hannah, just got off work and was without a trainee today, or rather with a trainee today who believed in Tartaria, and it seems like flat Earth. I didn't push back and instead asked him to send me his research, so maybe we'll have more tinfoil soon. Careful. Are you gonna get in trouble if it turns out you're doing that and making fun of a fellow employee on the internet? Like, I don't care, morally. I'm just saying, I don't want you to get in trouble. Anyway, unfortunately, the guy is a black man who seems to think the civil rights movement was a mistake and hates queer people. I really wasn't sure how to push back on his weird collection of beliefs. Frankly, I'm uncomfortable. He's going to be a coworker, but I'm not sure what to do. Here would be my suggestion. Don't push back on it unless it becomes an actual problem. Like, if it becomes a problem where he's bringing it up a lot and being an asshole, I totally get that and complain about it, so maybe he'll stop. But, like, you gotta work with this person. I wouldn't recommend intentionally poking at those beliefs just because they're wrong. Like, I understand I do that for a living because I don't work with the people I talk about. You know? I don't have to interact with them. We're observing from afar. If you have to work with someone every day, that kind of thing's not going to end well, even if you're right. If we spent all our time poking at all the things we thought our coworkers were wrong about, everything would be a nightmare. So, I wouldn't recommend it. But you're an adult, so you're gonna do what you're gonna do. But that's just how I feel about it. Second, I have things I'm... There we go. Get so many goddamn notifications. Alien Private Eye. Haven't seen it yet. Got it on the recommendation of Jay from Red Letter Media. Yeah, my throat's already getting to me. Thanks, Baha. All Dogs Go to Heaven. Cute movie. Weird that the cosmological concepts of heaven and hell exist in this children's movie, and we literally see a dog at the end of the movie get ripped down to hell painfully. Like, drag me to hell? But that's fun. Pebble and the Penguin. Fucking awful. What were you doing, Bluth? What were you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna do some stretches real quick. That's a good point. Alright, that should hopefully be a little better. Okay, The Pebble and the Penguin is about a penguin who wants to find a special pebble to propose to his, like, penguin crush. And it's bad. I'm gonna show you the hell scenes, and someone was like, wait, a dog goes to hell in that movie? Yes, a dog goes to hell in that movie. Oh, this is the dream sequence. Share anything with his name. You're not going to try and fix him. Okay. Woof, someone's heart weighed more than a feather. what it is about Bluth animation, but the way that they do the lava and the way they do other fluids looks very nice. Here's the part where... Oh, was it in the sequel that the dog gets dragged to hell? Sorry. Let's take a look.
What do you know? And I thought all dogs go to heaven.
Anyway, All Quiet on the Western Front. This is the 79 version. Great movie, ruminating on the topic of war and how useless it is and how societies often propagate bullshit ideas about honor and protecting the sanctity of one's homeland in order to convince them to go out and fight imperialistic wars on behalf of the wealthy. Solid. The Money Pit and the Burbs. Haven't seen The Money Pit, because it's a 2-pack. Haven't seen The Money Pit, but The Burbs is a fun Tom Hanks kind of dark comedy from the late 80s, early 90s about living in a suburban neighborhood where something might be going on below the surface, literally and metaphorically. It's him and some other neighbors trying to figure out just what's going on with their neighbor. Alligator. It's a movie with a giant alligator that eats people. Altered States. Haven't seen it. Heard it's great. Gotta check it out. Know it's about a guy who has a drug trip and turns into a monkey or something. Amadeus, director's cut. I like the film Amadeus. It's not accurate, but no biopic is it? I think it's fun. Casting Salieri as the villain, not accurate, but makes for a compelling narrative, so I'll take it. I like Amadeus. The Amazing Spider-Man collection. First one's okay, second one's dog shit. Sorry, Andrew Garfield, I don't think you make a good Peter Parker. American Dresser. Haven't seen it. It's some weird right-wing movie that I picked up at the dollar store. Haven't watched it yet. American History X. American History X is a good movie. My concern is how, unfortunately, the imagery is co-opted by neo-Nazis and white supremacists. In fairness, this was true years ago. I don't know if this is true anymore. It probably isn't. But there was a period of time when scenes from this movie were unironically used by, like, neo-Nazis because they liked them. If you're not familiar with American History X, the premise is about a skinhead and his younger brother, and the older brother goes to prison, and while he's in prison, he learns the error of his ways and no longer is a Nazi and comes back and tries to convince his brother, like, hey, stop being a racist shithead. I'm sorry I led you down this path. Please stop. So there are scenes in the movie that take place from the perspective of the younger brother, because he's the protagonist of the film, basically. And he's an unreliable narrator. It's a very subjective viewpoint. So early in the film, when it goes over memories of him with his brother being a white supremacist, because the film is from his perspective, the film frames these scenes as very positive. Like, there's a scene in which literally... how do I illustrate this without just showing it? I'll show you a part. It's not violent or anything. It's just shitty. So there's a scene in this movie, oh wait, they probably use racial slurs here. I'll just show the part with the music. It's a part where the skinhead neo-Nazi shitbags are on a basketball court, and they want to not allow non-white people here. So they do a basketball game where the winners will get the court and the losers can't go there anymore. This is, of course, a fucked up scene, because it's neo-Nazis trying to kick people of color out of a basketball court that's public because of the color of their skin. This is a bad thing, but because the movie is from the perspective of the kid, and at this point in the movie, he hasn't learned the error of his ways yet, this is how the scene where his neo-Nazi brother wins the game, thus disallowing the people who aren't skinheads from using the court, this is how it's framed in the movie. Slow down, triumphant music, cut to crowd, applauding while the music swells. Again, I understand the reason that it's framed like this. It's because from the perspective of the kid, he feels that way. It's trying to get across his emotions. The problem is, it's meant to be a disconnect between you and the film. It's supposed to be a disconnect between you and the kid, and as an audience, you're supposed to look at that and cringe and go, oh, that poor kid has no idea what he's even cheering for. Like, he has no concept of what he's doing or thinking. However, if you're just a white supremacist, there's no juxtaposition there. There's no uncomfortability. There's no tension between what the movie is showing you and what you feel. So to you, it's just a genuine celebration scene of white supremacy. Again, I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm just saying it's a movie that is ripe for misunderstanding. American Horror Projects 1 and 2. Haven't seen these yet. These were on sale some years ago from Arrow. They're box sets of lesser-known, independent, or small horror films and slashers. Haven't gotten a chance to watch them yet, but they're on my list. American Mary, a body horror film about a surgical student who starts doing freelance surgery for people without a license, for extra money, and she ends up liking it and being really good at it. I enjoy it. If you like body horror, check it out. If you are a person who spends time in sort of alternative communities that are kind of like offbeat, you know, like the kind of people that the general public would look at as like weirdos because you have like quote unquote too many piercings or whatever. Like if you're into body modification, it's a movie that kind of delves into that. I'm not going to say it's a good representation of the community because it definitely takes it to an extreme, but there are some things that it's like, hey, why do you care what other people do? Like, you might find it uncomfortable, but it's not hurting anyone else. American Psycho and American Psycho 2. The first American Psycho is a brilliant rumination on the kind of society that America had built itself up to be and the kind of people that we put up on pedestals in the 1980s, in particular in the business sector. People like Gordon Gekko, right? Who, of course, is a villain of that film, but he is supposed to be representative of a really real kind of person who existed in the 80s and today. People like Donald Trump, people like Carl Icahn, people who are basically corporate raiders. And Bates is a perfect example of that. Sociopathic, psychopathic, wants to hurt other people, terminally jealous of everyone else around him and feeling inferior. It's a classic film. Would recommend. American Psycho 2. Don't watch American Psycho 2. It was a completely different movie. Sorry, Patrick Bateman, not Bates. I apologize. American Psycho 2 was a completely different movie, but then they decided, oh, hey, don't we own the rights to that American Psycho franchise? Make it that. And then they made the movie American Psycho 2, and it's bad. American Tail, another good Bluth movie. Fun. Sorry, I know I'm describing a lot of things as fun, but I gotta go over 2,000 movies, and I don't have a thesaurus. Why do I own American Psycho 2? I like bad sequels. You're gonna see a lot of bad sequels on this list. I have an obsession with bad sequels. I think they're interesting. You can also usually find them incredibly cheap. Like, you can get American Psycho 2 for like $3 if you find it used. It's not expensive. American Werewolf in London. Fuck John Landis, but that's a good werewolf movie. And it's got the best werewolf transformation scene of all goddamn time. Anchorman. Early 2000s comedy, funny, I guess, for the time. Probably hasn't aged well. Typical Will Ferrell stuff. Andromeda Strain. movie, if I remember correctly, about a sentient virus, or at least just a virus from space that gives everyone trouble. Pandemics aren't fun. Good movie, though. AVGN. Oh, this isn't a movie. This is a series. This is the Blu-ray of Angry Video Game Nerd, seasons 1 through 12. What do you want me to say about it? If it wasn't for Angry Video Game Nerd and James Rolfe in general, and especially Cinemasker Monster Madness that got me interested in horror in the first place, or at least helped to deepen my interest in horror, I wouldn't be here doing this. I'm not going to pretend that I have as much respect for James as I used to, especially after the plagiarism thing, but like, what are you going to do? Annie, one of my favorite movie musicals. Catchy music, cute, nice staging. Daddy Warbucks, played by a guy who plays the I'm stern, but later I'll soften because children are lovable. Plays it fine. No, I don't own AVGN the movie. I've seen it, though. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Has a good cameo in Serial Mom. We'll get to Serial Mom. We're still in the A's, though. Fuck, guys. We're an hour in, and we're still in the A's. Okay, we gotta speed this up. Woo! Okay, lightning round, lightning round, lightning round. Annihilation, haven't seen it. I know, I need to. I know what it's about. I don't want to spoil people, but I haven't seen it. Ant-Man, fun but underwhelming. The story isn't that impactful, but I like Paul Rudd. Quantumania, haven't seen it yet. Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's fine. I'm glad I didn't see it in theaters, though. Felt like a Disney Plus movie. Ants. It's a movie about ants, and it looks bad in HD because you can tell that it's not really ants most of the time. But I do like animal run amok movies, so it's fun. Apocalypse Now, the final cut. You can just watch the normal cut. You don't need to watch... 1 minute for 2,000 items would be 33 hours, and you're talking way more than a minute per item. All right, we gotta do it. We just gotta... If I dwell too long, gotta yell at me. The rest is lightning round. Here we go. Apocalypse Now. Watch the theatrical cut. Apollo 13. It's fine. A lot of the zero-G stuff is interesting to know how they shot it, but it's a pretty milquetoast movie because Ron Howard directed it, and he's like the McDonald's of directors. Arachnophobia. Spooky. I don't like spiders. But again, animals run amok. So fun. Aristocats. I remember the racist cats. That's all I remember. Army of Darkness. Not my favorite Evil Dead movie, but a really fun action slapstick horror comedy. One of Bruce Campbell's best roles for showing off his action and comedic abilities. Arrival. I love this one because it's a sci-fi movie that's also sort of like a linguistic fiction film. I don't want to spoil it. Just watch it. It's a thoughtful sci-fi movie about what would it be like if aliens came to Earth, how would we learn to communicate with them? Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Haven't seen the whole thing, but it's a, I think, fitting from what I've seen, follow-up to Army of Darkness. At the Video Store, another documentary about video collecting. Haven't watched it yet. Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Action scenes are fun. I like Michael J. Fox. The production design of all the Atlantean stuff I like. We again see the combination of 3D animation with 2D. Don't know why it was as big of a fail as it was at the box office, but I like it okay. Atlantis 2, Milo's Return, dog shit. It's a backdoor pilot for a show that didn't get picked up. Atomic Cafe, a documentary with no commentary. It just uses edited footage from the eras to kind of take us through a narrative of America's nuclear era, post dropping the bombs in Japan all the way through like the 60s, till the end of the 60s roughly. How America and our media's relationship with atomic energy, with atomic weapons, how it changed over periods of time. Really insightful if you're interested in Cold War atomic stuff. Audition. Horror film from Japan. How much do I want to get into this? I would argue this falls into the torture porn category, if for nothing else, a few of the things that happen within it. Would recommend. Auntie D's Meat Pies. Haven't seen it yet. Gonna assume they eat some goddamn humans in that based on the cover. The Austin Powers series. First one, I see how it was funny for the time, but I don't know how much of it has aged well. I'll give him this. At least Austin Powers cares about consent, so that's nice. Austin Powers 2, I feel like the joke had already gotten old by this point, but I do like time travel plots, so I'll take it. Third one, holy shit, we're still doing this? We're still doing this? I was done by that point. Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the best animated series of all time. End of sentence. Avatar: The Way of Water, haven't seen it? Didn't even plan to? I'm part of the Disney Movie Club, and I forgot to hit the no thank you on my monthly movie, so they sent me it. And then I was planning to return it, but then it sat around long enough that it's past the return period. So I just own Avatar 2 now, even though I don't own the first Avatar movie. Avengers: Age of Ultron. I think it got a bad rap at the time. It's not the worst of the Marvel movies, but I get it. It's kind of a middle movie. I do like James Spader, though. He's a highlight for me. Avengers Endgame, where the series ended for most people, I'd argue. I think most people stopped giving a shit after Endgame. Solid ending to that initial era of Marvel films. In hindsight, maybe this will be considered the last good one. I think there's some good stuff after this, for sure, but I understand that the general opinion is there's been a huge drop-off. I think it closes out the Iron Man arc pretty well. Infinity War, maybe a better movie than Endgame overall. But again, it's just a part one. Avengers, I don't know if it holds up. Avengers was novel at the time, but now we've seen the same thing so often, and I think most people remember the quips at this point. We saw them in the trailers and stuff so often. But it's nostalgic, I guess. It's a little nostalgic, but I don't know how well it would hold up to watch it today. A little too quippy, a little too Joss Whedon, you know? Alien vs. Predator. Haven't seen the second one. First one, not a good movie, but I do like seeing them battle, so that's why I own it. The Babadook. Excellent. What do they call it? The horror that's like elevated horror. One of the first elevated horror movies I've seen that's like, oh, we have something to say post-Saw, and we're not just mutilating people. For whatever reason, the Babadook became a queer icon. Don't know the story behind that, but it's literally to the point where they've released editions of the Blu-ray with rainbow coloring. So that's cool. Babe, a nostalgic children's movie about a talking pig and his disapproving, abusive father. That pig has daddy issues. The Baby, creepy exploitation horror movie from the late 70s about basically a child that was never taught to be an adult and forced to stay a baby. It's got a twist ending. It's pretty dumb, but I like it because it's dumb. I like dumb stuff. Baby Driver. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies in terms of editing. I really, really love how all the editing is done to the music. Edgar Wright's really funny. I think the movie carries that through with both action. It keeps the tension while not having it get so serious that there aren't funny moments. Soundtrack, without a doubt, fucking slaps. And it's unfortunate that Kevin Spacey's in it, but at the very least he's playing a guy who's taking advantage of a young man he has power over, so like, good casting, I guess. Back in Time, a documentary about Back to the Future. I like Back to the Future. The Back to the Future trilogy. The first movie is one of the tightest screenplays of all time. It is a solid movie in and of itself. The sequel's fun. As a kid, the 2015 in Back to the Future was my favorite idea of what the future would look like. Of course, it was very wrong, but it's still fun to go back to. Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox play against each other incredibly well, despite their age difference. They really do feel like old friends, especially in those sequels, Part 3 in particular, which again, I think gets a bad rap. Part 3 got shit on, but I think if you go and you watch Part 3 right now, it really is a nice ending to the series. It's emotional. Doc gets his arc where he finally gets a family and learns, you know, hey, like, I love science, but interpersonal relationships matter too. It's cute. I should raise this? Raise what? Part 2 is worse? I think they're all pretty good. Part 2 isn't as... 2 and 3 aren't as solid just films as the first one, but in terms of sequels, I think they're fun. The second one does the whole alternate evil present thing, which is such a trope. And again, I just like the future stuff. I like the hoverboard. Bad Times at the El Royale. I was a little disappointed by the movie, because it's a... For those who don't know, Bad Times at the El Royale is sort of a whodunit mystery thing. Sorry, I'm trying to make this so you can see everything on the screen. I'm going to shrink this down a bit so you can see my whole screen. Not ideal, but it'll do. Where's my background? Why is it so dang small? There we go. Better. It's pretty good. At the very least, the dude is in it, and the dude abides. Bambi. Bambi, the first one, is a boring movie to watch as an adult, unless you're really into Disney animation, especially early animation. It's great to look at for that. There's tons of beautiful, like, nature scenes. That's basically the whole movie, is Bambi vibing in nature. So if you're into that, watch Bambi. If not, watch anything else, I guess. Bambi 2, a sequel that came out, I think, with the biggest length of time between the two movies. I think Bambi 2 came out in, like, the 90s. So, like, there's 50 years that took place between Bambi and Bambi 2? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I know why. It's just so stupid. Barbie. Barbie slaps. See Barbie. That's a recent movie. I've talked about it a lot recently. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie by Greta Gerwig. It, is one of the biggest pieces of feminist mass media ever produced, which is kind of funny to think. Basket Case. Basket Case is a beautiful movie about two brothers who just want to be together forever. It's a Frank Henenlotter film. If you want to see greasy, gross, sticky, sleazy 1970s New York City, good movie for that. Basket Case 2. It's about two brothers who find a found family. It's really a movie about found family, and that's great. Basket Case 3 is the one where they have mutant babies. So that's cool. When did I get Barbie? It came today with that package that came. I scanned it in before stream. Let's see. Batman 80th Anniversary Collection. I actually have to see which movies are in this because it's a bunch of different animated films. Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Definitely the best animated movie Batman's ever been in. Maybe the best Batman film. Not ironic, not joking. Batman Mask of the Phantasm might actually be the best Batman film ever made. Mystery of the Batwoman, not as good as Mask of the Phantasm, but it's in the Tim-verse or in the Dini-verse, so that's cool. Haven't seen Gotham Knight. Public Enemies, Superman Batman was a disappointment, and I thought the animation style was bad. Haven't seen Red Hood. Haven't seen Apocalypse. Batman Year One was good. I liked Bryan Cranston as Commissioner Gordon. He fits. Dark Knight Returns, parts 1 and 2, haven't watched. I've read the comics, so I haven't really seen the adaptations. Batman Assault on Arkham is a... What letter do you have the most movies of? I actually don't know off the top of my head. I could probably look it up on my app later, though. Batman Assault on Arkham isn't really a Batman movie. It's a Suicide Squad movie, but they called it Batman Assault on Arkham because this was before the Suicide Squad live-action movie. So general audiences didn't know who the fuck the Suicide Squad was. Pretty good Suicide Squad movie. Batman vs. Robin. I was excited when I heard about this, and then I found out it was Batman vs. Robin as in Damian Robin, not Dick. Damian Robin. And then I was like, oh. Okay. And that's pretty much how I felt about the movie, because it tries to kind of adapt the, Court of Owls story, and I like the Court of Owls story, but it really butchers it for the sake of this movie. It's a bad adaptation. Batman Bad Blood, haven't seen it. Batman The Killing Joke, okay, the second half, it's fine. If you want to see a live action, or rather, sorry, animated version of The Killing Joke, the second half is okay. Why in the world was half of the running time of The Killing Joke a story that you made up, a fan fiction about Barbara Gordon fucking Bruce Wayne? Barbara Gordon is Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon are roughly the same age. Bruce is a little younger, not young enough to justify him banging Barbara Gordon. I fucking hate it. It's like his niece or surrogate daughter, right? Exactly. Like, she's younger than Dick Grayson. Imagine if Batman fucked Dick Grayson. That would be fucked up, because they clearly have, like, a surrogate parent-child relationship. Batgirl, not as close, because, of course, he didn't adopt her like he did Dick or Jason, but Bruce Timm is a sick motherfucker. Like, I like Bruce Timm's art, but Bruce Timm is into some fucked up shit. Anyway, just read the comic. Batman Return to the Caped Crusader. One of Adam West's last times playing The Dark Knight. Fun, played with the genre and the fact that he has had many versions, that's all I'll say. Batman and Harley Quinn, haven't seen it, heard there were also weird gratuitous Bruce Timm sex stuff. Gotham by Gaslight. It was okay. I kind of wish the animation looked better, but in terms of doing a what-if Batman story in that era, serviceable. Batman Ninja. I both hated and loved Batman Ninja. I'm not going to say it did a bad job because I'm not super familiar with anime. I don't really like anime, but it seemed like it did a fine job for what it was doing, I guess. Though the CG stuff was off-putting. Mask of the Phantasm, again, one of the best of all time. Batman the Animated Series. Do I need to say anything about Batman the Animated Series? It's one of the best kids shows of all time. It's up there with Avatar The Last Airbender for me. Like, it's one of the best, all time. Batman the Brave and the Bold. Fun, more comedic Batman series. Generally, the premise is Batman will team up with some other hero or villain or character each episode, and that's the premise. It's Batman team-ups. Fun for 3 seasons. Batman the Movie from the 60s. Love that movie. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Batman the Original Series, corny, campy brilliance. Has my favorite Joker, Cesar Romero, and Adam West, I believe, is the best Bruce Wayne. Adam West, no, okay. Michael Keaton's the best Bruce Wayne. Adam West is the second to best Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson is going to be number 3 if he pulls off the next to the Batman movie. The Batman, the complete series. God damn, I have a lot of fucking Batman stuff. The Batman with Robert Pattinson. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, Batman movie. live action. I should clarify, like I said, Mask of the Phantasm is probably my favorite. The Batman, probably my favorite live action Batman movie. The Dark Knight's fine, but I don't really like Batman in that movie. I don't like the Christopher Nolan versus Batman or Bruce Wayne, like, at all. Like, the stories are interesting, the villains can be interesting, the worlds can be interesting. I do not like that version of Batman. I like this version of Batman. Detective Batman. You know what I liked real quick about the Batman? Often Batman's silence is taken as, like, stoic and like he's in control. What I liked about this version of the Batman is it made it clear to the audience that for this version of the Batman, who's in like the first year or two of his career, the silence isn't necessarily because he's trying to be stoic. It's because he's awkward and doesn't know how to interact with people, which of course to other people comes off as creepy, but like he just genuinely is kind of an awkward emo guy, and I love it. I love him. Fenekigami says a big reason that happened is that it's adapting an awful part of the Batman Beyond timeline where Barbara was in a relationship with Bruce, which is worse in the comics because she's cheating on Dick and even pregnant with Bruce's kid before a miscarriage. Jesus Christ, comic book people, what are we doing? Batman 4 film collection on 4K. This is the original live-action films from 89 onward. First film's a classic, but not my favorite live-action Batman film from the quadrilogy. Batman Returns, probably my favorite of that quadrilogy. The second movie really let Tim Burton just kind of do what he wanted, and this is when Tim Burton apparently still had talent. So I think that's my favorite of that quadrilogy of Batman movies. Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. They're not good, but they're campy in the same way the 60s series is. So if I watch those as sort of an homage to the 60s series, I can take it, you know? There have been a ton of serious Batman movies at this point, so, like, we're not at a shortage for serious, brooding Batman. I'm fine with corny. Batman Beyond, good follow-up series to the animated series. If you like the animated series and haven't seen Batman Beyond, check it out. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, Ultimate Edition, better than the theatrical cut, still a bad movie. Batman vs. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, fun crossover. Again, probably not as good as the comic that did it, but if you want it in an animated form, it exists. It's good. Battle for the Planet, haven't seen it yet. Battle Royale, haven't seen it yet. Release the Schumacher cut. Battlestar Galactica, haven't seen it yet. Beau was Afraid. Ari Aster's most recent film didn't do well commercially. Don't even know what the score was critically, though I can't imagine a lot of audiences liked it all that much. I loved it. I loved Beau was Afraid. It's right up my alley. It's the kind of shit I want more of, but audiences don't like it, which makes me sad. If you're into, like, weird Ari Aster films or, like, weird surreal horror, check out Beau was Afraid, please. That's the original Battlestar Galactica, not the remake. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks. There's some great stuff in this. I think Tom Hanks does a decent job evoking Fred Rogers. I do find the overall message of the movie to be not great. Like, even if you think that within the story of the main character of this movie, for those who don't know, I guess I should say, the arc of the movie is like the main character who's based on a real guy meeting Fred Rogers, who played was Mr. Rogers, and writing an article, and through that experience, making amends with his father, who's dying. The problem is, his dying father is an abusive monster, and the movie's ethos seems to be like, sure, people can be abusive and shitty, but when they're dying, you should still go see them and be nice to them and forgive them. And, like, I don't even think Mr. Rogers would really think that. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like that's a toxic message. There are absolutely people in your lives who are, like, you should cut out if they're abusive. You don't need to be shamed by Mr. Rogers into seeing them. But, again, Hanks was good at playing Rogers, so not unwatchable. A Beautiful Mind. I don't know if it holds up because so many of the tropes have been parodied at this point. The twist, I don't even know if it's a twist at this point. If you watch this movie, are you just gonna call it right away? I don't know. Russell Crowe, I think, was nominated for an Oscar for that. I don't know if that's justified, but it's a movie that exists. It's fine. Beauty and the Beast, one of my favorite Disney animated films. Certainly my favorite visually. It is beautiful. The entire art style is vivid and painted and actually tactile, especially on the 4K. When you put it in on big screen, it's like you can see the strokes that they took to fucking paint the beautiful backgrounds. And now everything's digital, which is fine, but I think it misses something. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. This is one of the movies Disney did after the success of Mary Poppins, where they just kept trying to make Mary Poppins again. They did Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Pete's Dragon. Like, they did a lot of movies where it tried to kind of evoke the same Mary Poppins type thing. I think Bedknobs and Broomsticks is the best of these ripoffs. I think it's at least fun. Good lead actress in, oh gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote. Goddamn. Angela Lansbury. Angela Lansbury's the lead in it. She's great. And you also have the guy who played the father in Mary Poppins. Again, whose name I'm forgetting. And he's great whenever I see him. So would recommend if you haven't seen it, but you like Mary Poppins. Bedtime for Bonzo. It's the movie where Ronald Reagan stars alongside a chimpanzee. And the entire reason I bought it was so I could say that sentence. B-movie. It's fucking B-movie. I basically bought this as a meme. It is actually a pretty entertaining kids movie. But it's fucking B-movie. The Bees. Let me tell you about the most disappointing movie I've ever bought, okay? It's called The Bees. Now you see a title called The Bees, and you go, holy shit, this is also starring the dad from Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, this is gonna be kind of corny and fun. It's a late 70s movie about, it's kind of a disaster. It's like The Birds, but it's bees, you know? Bees on the loose. This is the most boring animals gone amok movie I've ever seen in my goddamn life. I feel lied to. Certainly there are bees in the movie. Mostly at the end. Would not recommend. Don't see The Bees. You know how this goddamn movie ends? Do you know how The Bees fucking ends? It ends with the main character going to the UN and being like, hey guys, the bees are intelligent because I'm the scientist and I've been doing experiments this movie with the bees. And the bees talked to me, and the bees said they're, like, super mad about the environment. So, like, can you please stop, or the bees are gonna kill everyone? And the UN's like, ha ha ha, you talked to bees? That's insanity. And then, the bees come into the UN. They don't do anything. The UN is just fucking full of bees. And everyone in the UN's like, oh shit, those are fucking bees. And then they all agree, yep, we're gonna stop doing bad to the environment because the bees are holding us hostage. And that's the end of the movie. Terrible. Don't watch The Bees. Me explaining the plot of The Bees was more entertaining than any minute of watching the film The Bees. Not worth it. Okay. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is the worst part of the movie Beetlejuice. Like I said, I love very much Michael Keaton. I think he's a great actor. This isn't his fault, but Beetlejuice is just a pervert. He's just a pervert. That's the whole joke. The whole joke is, haha, this guy's dead, and also, he's a date rapist. That's the joke. Everything else about Beetlejuice is great, though. Literally every other character, the production design, they're all great. I just fucking hate Beetlejuice. Anyway, Being John Malkovich. Very strange movie. It's a movie with queer themes, a movie with trans themes. I'm telling ya, one of these days, here's my fan theory. No, I'm not gonna say that. No, okay. This is film analysis, it's fine. So I don't know how many of you have seen various Charlie Kaufman films, including the ones I'm thinking of here are Being John Malkovich and Synecdoche, New York. I don't know if any other trans people have watched Charlie's work and had this thought. Why are there so many goddamn trans themes in his movies? Being John Malkovich quite explicitly has a trans man who literally, born AFAB, goes into the body of John Malkovich and becomes more comfortable, so decides to basically be a man. Right? At least kind of. It's more complicated than that. And then Synecdoche, New York involves the main character. That's a complicated plot to explain. But there are themes of gender transition, identifying or being identified as the opposite gender. There's a lot of gender stuff in some of these movies. And I find it interesting because I don't think I've ever heard Charlie ever just come out and talk about it. I don't know, like, if anyone else has brought this up to him. It's interesting. It seems like on some level, and in fairness, this doesn't mean, I'm not saying he's trans, like he's not, unless he says he is, in which case, great. It's just interesting that there seems to be a consistent theme about trans stuff. But again, that's amongst a lot of other existential topics, so it might not be a main concern to him as much as it's just one of many existential concerns that comes up in his work, and it jumps out to me because I'm trans. So bear in mind, I'm not saying that that's like at the forefront of his work, I'm just saying it's something I've noticed a few times. Bernie. Bernie's a really I just keep saying really fun. I'm terrible at this. What about Adaptation? I do like Adaptation. We already talked about it. I don't remember any explicit trans themes. I'd have to watch it again. Bernie is a film that is a docudrama about a real-life murder, and Jack Black plays the murderer. The character is supposed to be a very likable guy who does the murder, and Jack Black's perfect for the role. He also did another very similar role that's not on this list because I have a bootleg, not because there was never an official Blu-ray release. But it was called The Polka King. It was produced by Netflix. Similar true crime docudrama. I'd also recommend that. So if you want to do a double feature about true crime, double feature true crime comedies starring Jack Black, do Bernie and The Polka King back to back. Better Call Saul, only seen the first 2 seasons, but they're excellent. Plan on going back and actually finishing the series at some point. Beverly Hills Cop. There has never been a series I have wanted to understand more than Beverly Hills Cop that I just do not understand. I haven't even seen 2 and 3. Every time I watch the first Beverly Hills Cop, I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be funny, right? Like, this is supposed to be a comedy, an action comedy. When's it gonna be funny? And also, Eddie Murphy may be a murderer, allegedly, so fuck him. Black's Law Dictionary request. What do you want me to look up? Beware, Children at Play. The last scene's the best part. It's a trauma movie. It's trash. Beyond Reanimator. Not great, but it's always nice to see Jeffrey Combs come and play the Mad Doctor himself, Frank West? Herbert West. Sorry, I've been talking for 2 hours. I'm already forgetting names. Big Fish. One of Tim Burton's best movies. Not a very Tim Burton movie. Stars Ewan McGregor. Cute fantasy movie. What do you want me to look up in the Black's Law Dictionary? Look up the Eddie Murphy thing. I'm already busy. I don't have time to go into it. Big Hero 6. Pixar adaptation of a Marvel superhero comic, although very, very changed in the adaptation. It's cute. It's fun. Makes me honestly wish that the Marvel movies weren't all in the same universe. Like, I know the Big Hero 6 isn't, but I wish it wasn't just the exception. Because I think that more Marvel properties could probably work pretty well as younger audience movies, like Pixar movies. But whatever. Like, I think you probably could have done Miss Marvel as a Pixar movie. You don't have to, of course. I like the woman they have playing Kamala now, but I just think that would have worked really well, especially with her powers. I think that would have adapted to an animated movie. Big Lebowski, my favorite Coen Brothers movie. I love the dude. I love I love Walter. Every character in this movie I love. It's just iconic. Enough said. Big Short. Decent enough basic explanation of how the 2008 financial crisis happened, if you want to explain it to people. It's kind of cute. Steve Carell's fine. It's fine. Big Trouble in Little China. Fun John Carpenter movie. I like the gimmick of, oh, you think this guy's gonna be the main character, but then really he's the sidekick and he doesn't get it. It's a fun gimmick. The Bill and Ted movies. The first one's the best one, and it's the one that holds up the best, other than the usage of the F slur at one point in the movie. Bogus Journey's alright. It has a lot of problems, but I like that one, especially the song with Station at the end. Take no prisoners, open fire. Station, battle station. Third one's feels like a movie they made for fun, just to wrap up the story, and I'm just gonna be honest, as much as I like Keanu Reeves, what was he doing in the third Bill and Ted movie? Like, did he just forget how to act like the character from Bill and Ted? I'm just saying, he doesn't act like Ted at all. He acts like Keanu Reeves. I don't think I ever got told what to look up for the Black's Law Dictionary request, by the way. Unless I missed it. I don't think so, though. Billy Jack. Haven't seen them. They're supposedly westerns about kind of a hippie guy, so that's cool. Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. I liked them when I was 10, so I bought them. Birds 2, Land's End. It's a sequel to The Birds from the 90s. It's bad. Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. That's a mouthful. Okay. I actually liked this movie, but it does take place basically within the Snyderverse, which is really unfortunate, but Margot Robbie, I think, is a pretty good Harley Quinn. I feel bad. I think she's great, and obviously she was excellent in Barbie, if you've seen that. But, oh boy, I just don't like the Snyderverse. I just don't. Even if her character's fine within it for what it's become in Birds of Prey and The Suicide Squad, it's just in a setting that I find nasty. I don't like the Snyderverse. It feels so grimy. Birth of a Nation. This is the 1915 incredibly racist quote-unquote epic by D.W. Griffith. It's terrible. It's racist. I wouldn't recommend watching it if you're not a film student, and even if you are, why are you watching this one? There are tons of other old films you could be watching that you can learn from. I literally only own this because, I don't know. I have this thing where I think evil things like this should be preserved, even if they're fucking awful. I don't know why, but I have it. Black Christmas, 1974, another precursor to the 80s slasher movement. Killer calls on the telephone, saying lewd things to the sorority sisters and murders them. It's what you would think of as a slasher movie. Is that the most problematic film I own? Probably. There's definitely others. If I had to come up with a list of the most problematic films I own, it's probably Birth of a Nation. I think I might have The Jazz Singer somewhere. I own Ghost Dad, which is a Bill Cosby movie that you can't get anymore for obvious reasons. A Serbian film is just fucked up. I don't ever think I'm going to watch that again, but I own it. I don't know. I have a whole shelf. I have a shelf of things that are like, eh. I guess anything Roman Polanski directed. Rosemary's Baby, I guess. Do I have that? I might not actually have that as of right now. Anyway. Black Mirror. Great series. I think some of the best stuff is in the early seasons, but there's some decent stuff in the recent seasons too. Joan is awful or whatever was an okay episode. Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. I think given the circumstances of their lead actor passing away, they did the best they could with that movie. It was a really nice tribute. Probably not the sequel one would expect from the first Black Panther movie, but again, the structure was dictated by the reality that he died, which is sad, but good movie. Black Panther. I really like the first Black Panther more than the second. And again, the second is good for what it is. But Chadwick Boseman, God, it sucks that he died, because I think he has that thing. You know, certain people play superheroes and you just know they're going to be the iconic version of that hero for an entire generation. Like, for the Wonder Woman TV series, why am I blanking on her name? She was iconic for that her whole career. Like, she showed up in Sky High as a reference to that in, like, the 90s. Linda Carter, thank you. Bill Bixby with The Incredible Hulk. Michael Keaton Batman. What's the other one I'm blanking on? Superman. God, I'm so bad with names because I'm thinking of so many. Christopher Reeves, Batman. Tony Stark. Anyway, you get the point. I just think Chadwick Boseman being the first actor to play Black Panther, and on top of that, he has a very charismatic, magnetic personality. He was going to be another one of those iconic people who he could have, you know, if he had lived to be in his, like, 60s, 70s, I can imagine him at the Oscars or whatever, and people still calling him Black Panther and doing the thing, you know? Iconic. Sad. Black Swan. Psychological thriller about... It's the typical story of, oh, there's an artist, a performer, and the performer is in second place and will do anything it takes to become the number one in the show. It's that kind of trope, but with also some lesbian scenes, which are cool, I guess. Black Venus. Haven't seen it. Though I believe it's about the real-life story of... you guys are familiar with, in the past, racist shitbags would have zoos or shows where they would take people from Africa, or even people who weren't from Africa but were of African descent, and then use them in, like, sideshows or zoos and treat them like animals. Black Venus is a film, I think it's a French film, that is from the perspective of a woman who is put in that situation. Looked interesting. Haven't seen it yet, though. Black Widow. Too many years too late. Too many years too late, and holy shit, I'm not even the biggest Taskmaster fan in the world, but what the fuck was that take on Taskmaster? Jesus Christ. Blackenstein. Haven't seen it. Literally got it because of the title. It's like Blackula. One of those horror exploitation, blaxploitation films from the 70s. Blackfish, documentary on orcas at SeaWorld and in captivity in general, which is so good and impactful that it actually caused SeaWorld to cease forever its captive orca breeding program. So that's good. Sorry, I should look at the chat. I feel like I haven't looked at the chat in a while. I'm just going. And I'm hoping that for some of you, at least, this is entertaining or interesting in some way. Excuse me. Why am I drinking the soda? I should drink the water. Okie dokie. And Blade trilogy. I haven't seen the Blade movies. Please don't crucify me. I plan on it. Blade Runner, the final cut. My preferred cut of the film. Director's cut's also fine, but I like the color grading of final cut. It's fine if you don't. I understand. It's just my personal preference. Solid neo-noir sci-fi film about Deckard looking for a replicant and what it means to be a human being. What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to live? Is it an accident of birth, or is it what you do with your experience and how you cherish them? Do you make the most of your time, or do you throw it away cynically? Blade Runner 2049, another one of the probable best sequels of all time. Takes place in the same universe, continues the story, but you could watch it on its own, I guess. Really great. Ryan Gosling nails it. And the more in-depth look at the dystopian Blade Runner future is cool. Blast from the... Sorry, give me a sec. Okay. Blast from the past. This is a nostalgia movie for me just because I watched it on TV a lot as a kid. Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, the guy, Cowbell Walken, Christopher Walken, is the dad in it. Cute comedy about a kid whose parents went into a nuclear fallout shelter in the 60s or the 50s, and they gave birth to him in the shelter, and they think that a nuclear war happened, so they're all underground until he's like 30, and he leaves the vault in the 90s. It's a fish out of water story. Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks movie, very funny. One of Gene Wilder's funniest roles. Also, oh gosh, what's his name who plays the sheriff? I gotta look, I can't just say the name of Gene Wilder. Starring Cleavon. I knew it was something Yvonne, but I couldn't remember the first part. Cleavon Little. They were originally supposed to get Richard Pryor in this, but I don't know if he was busy or what. I'm glad, though, because as much as I do like the roles where Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor worked against each other, and I think there's one called, like, See No Evil, Hear No Evil. There's a few movies where they worked together. They're good, but I think Cleavon worked excellent in this role, and I can't imagine anyone else doing it. Blind Fury. It's about a blind swordsman. It's cheesy. Bloody Birthday. It's a slasher movie that takes place on someone's birthday. What do you want me to say about it? People get stabbed. Blues Brothers. It's fine. It's fine. Nazis. Illinois Nazis. I hate these guys. Yeah. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Great whodunit slasher horror film. If you haven't seen Bodies, 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 check it out this October season. Don't look anything up. Don't get spoiled, please. It is a whodunit. I would recommend you go in blind. All you need to know is it's a bunch of influencers and nepo babies in a house getting murdered. It's fun. Body Bags, an anthology film by John Carpenter, which was meant to be a backdoor pilot. Not backdoor pilot, because it wasn't part of another show. It was sort of supposed to be a pilot for a Tales from the Crypt type spin-off, or Tales from the Crypt type show, where John Carpenter would be like the coroner, and he introduced all the segments, he did all the beginning and end bookends to all the stories, and it was very Tales of the Crypt-esque. Makes me sad we didn't get this show, because I really like Body Bags, and I think it could have been, maybe not Tales from the Crypt, but it could have been up there. Could have been a nice anthology show. Body Girls. It's a slasher movie that takes place at a gym. People get killed with gym equipment. What do you want me to say about it? Bolt. Forgettable Disney animated movie, in my view. He's a dog. He's a dog that thinks he's a superhero because he plays one in a TV show. Great. Boogie Nights. My favorite movie. Boogie Nights is my favorite movie. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It's dark. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, it's sexy, it's repugnant. It's just my favorite fucking movie of all time. Please watch Boogie Nights. I love it. I love it so much. It does have Marky Mark. I think my favorite part of that movie is when he's singing intentionally bad. Because, of course, he can actually sing, you know? Boogie Nights. You got the touch. Here he is. So, of course, Mark Wahlberg can sing because, you know, he's done that. He's been a musician. I always find it funny when people you know can sing intentionally bad. So there's a scene in the movie where he's trying to do a record contract to try and break out of the sex work industry. And he's quite bad at it.
Excuse me.
Reminder that at this time, You Got the Touch is literally a movie that is most famous for being in the Transformers movie, which means that Dirk Diggler went and saw the Transformers movie and it was like, I want to do a cover of that song, which is amazing if you know his character. That is so in character for him. Bad. If you ever have anxiety about feeling stuck in your career or feeling like you're afraid that you've ruined your life because you've spent your entire life developing skills as either, I don't know, like Dirk Diggler, only being in the VHS pornography industry, or if you're someone who at a very young age got their start on YouTube and made that their career, if you're ever afraid of being stuck in your career, Boogie Nights is a good movie. It's about found family. It's about how you can overcome being stuck as long as you recognize the need for change and not to get too full of yourself, because that inevitably leads to destruction. Anyway, check out Boogie Nights. Outside of Boogie Nights, do I like Paul Thomas Anderson's movies? I like Magnolia. I'd have to see a list of his other stuff, but yes, I generally like him a lot. I also have Licorice Pizza, which I haven't actually watched yet, but I got it specifically because I know that was him, and I love him. Oh, The Master. I do love The Master. That's probably the best movie about Scientology. That's just a complete fiction. Joaquin Phoenix helps a lot, though, too. He's generally great. Oh, and Punch Drunk Love. One of the Adam Sandler movies, which is good because he didn't direct it or anything, or write it. He's just an actor. Okay, we gotta get back. Speed round. Boondock Saints, haven't seen it. Borrower. Fun gore movie where the alien is stealing body parts. I enjoyed it. The Bourne Collection is... Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. A Boy and His Dog, haven't seen it yet. Boyhood, haven't seen it yet. The Boys Season 1 and 2. I was gonna say it's my favorite satire or commentary on superhero stuff, but I think I actually like Invincible better. I love Invincible, and that last episode of the first season of Invincible is heartbreaking. If you have an abusive parent, especially an abusive father, that last episode of Invincible can be fucking re-traumatizing, just the recognition and the emotional pain of recognizing this person that you're supposed to trust the most in the world is this evil monster with no regard for other people. Devastating. And also good. The Boys is great, though. Incredibly funny, well acted. Homelander is one of the greatest villains in television history. And Billy Butcher is... I don't know. I like Carl Urban. I'll take it. Brain Damage. Another fun 80s movie about an alien or interdimensional being that basically gets into this guy's body and starts feeding him alien drugs if he helps kill people. Pretty good. Brain Scan. I actually watched this yesterday. Brain Scan is a weird film from 1994 starring Edward Furlong, shortly, I believe, after Terminator 2. It's a movie in which he is a fan of horror films, and he sends away for a videotape that's like, it's gonna scan your brain and give you true horror. I'm not gonna get into too many spoilers, but basically this demon guy shows up, and he's very, trickster demon. If you're familiar with, like, Mr. Migslixplix, or, like, Batmite, or any sort of irreverent chaos demon that finds it hilarious to get humans into trouble, and they think it's funny to make them do murders and stuff. It's good for that. It's fun. It's cute. If you like horror movies, it's a fun 90s slasher. And there aren't many good 90s slashers before Scream. This is one of them. Garotz, thanks for 15 months, says, from one movie nerd to another, loving the Hannah stream. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Bram Stoker's Dracula. I know everyone makes fun of Keanu Reeves because he's terrible in this movie. and people make fun of the look of Dracula early in the movie. I actually don't mind it. I don't mind it at all, because I always took it as Dracula tries to blend in with whatever century he's in. I think at this point, he's so used to looking like this, because this is what old-timey European, Eastern European aristocracy might look like, and then he changes how he looks to fit it. This is also how I justify throughout the Universal Monster series. Dracula changes actors a few times. That's how I justify that. It's also what I do in the Hammer horror films when that happens. Dracula changes form to look more like someone from the ruling class of that day, usually an Englishman who's white. Anyway, I enjoy it. All the practical effects in Bram Stoker's Dracula are excellent. They do so many in-camera things, and if you're into that part of movies, recommend for that reason alone. Brave, haven't seen it. Breakfast Club, a dated but salient look at problems white suburban middle-class teenagers faced in the 1980s. Breaking Bad, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Definitely my favorite drama, probably, of all time. Watch it. Brewster's Millions, maybe my favorite Richard Pryor movie. The premise of Brewster's Millions is he is given like $30 million or something with the stipulation, or rather, he's given like $300 million with the stipulation that he has to spend $30 million in 30 days and have no assets at the end of those 30 days in order to get the rest of the money. And he can't tell anyone. So it's basically a movie about him spending money on all sorts of stupid bullshit and him being funny. I'd recommend it. I don't remember anything too problematic in it. Again, when you recommend old movies, hydrate. I always try and think if there's any super yikesy stuff. I can't remember any. Probably fine. Bride of Chucky. This was the start of the Chucky series becoming more comedic. I am all for it. I like Bride of Chucky. Bride of Reanimator. Get it? Like Bride of Frankenstein. Not as good as Reanimator, but it's fine. Brokeback Mountain. Well-made romance drama about gay cowboys. It's rough to watch. Sad ending. But good movie. Glad it won the Oscar, considering the time that it was made. Brother Bear and Brother Bear 2. I would like these movies better if Phil Collins would shut the fuck up during it. I even like Phil Collins in Tarzan. Hot take. The soundtrack to Tarzan kinda fucking slaps. I don't like the Brother Bear soundtrack. Brother Bear 2 is just terrible. Lady becomes a bear so she can be with this guy? She okay with that? Would she have said yes to becoming a bear just so she can shit in the woods and fuck this other bear guy? And they have like a bear cub kind of kid? I don't know. Bruce Lee. We talked about Bruce Lee the other day. He's great. Died too soon. Very sad. Just pretty much any of the movies that he did while he was with, oh god, what's the name of the studio that he actually signed with? Golden Harvest, I actually want to say. I don't think I need to pull it. During his Golden Harvest years, I would recommend the Bruce Lee movies. Bubba Hotep. Again, horror comedy starring Bruce from Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell. He plays Elvis, who didn't really die in the 70s. In this reality, Elvis switched places with an Elvis impersonator, and the Elvis impersonator died, and now no one will believe Elvis that he's the real Elvis. And he's in a retirement home with a guy that claims that he's secretly JFK, and that actually JFK didn't die. They killed a double. The problem is this version of JFK is a black guy, but he says that the CIA dyed his skin black so no one would believe him. Anyway, then an ancient Egyptian mummy comes back to life, and black JFK and fake real Elvis have to fight Bubba Hotep, which is the name of the mummy. Check it out, 4 stars. Buddies, the first theatrical, or at the very least, the first feature film. This is according to the back of the box, so I don't know if this is true. The box claims it's the first full-length feature film, to tackle the concept of AIDS. This is from 1985, so it was relatively early in the crisis, comparatively to when more big films and stuff were talking about it. Haven't watched it yet, but I got it because I try and collect queer cinema stuff. Bug's Life. Based as fuck. It's a movie about unionization and workers having the power. Show it to your children, teach them to be based. But I'm a cheerleader. My favorite queer comedy of all time? It's about a woman who gets sent to a conversion camp and meets the love of her life. It's a very sweet film and very funny. Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker. Incest vibes. Butterfly Effect 1 and 2. The first one's pretty fun. The second one's, again, incest. Why are all these movies about incest? Chomps. Haven't seen it. It's about a robot dog. Chud. More boring than I expected, honestly. Maybe Chud 2, Bud the Chud's better. Cabin Fever. Hoo boy. If you could power the world based on F-slurs, you could power the world for 100 years just playing Cabin Fever once. I'll say this about it. Pancakes. Cabin in the Woods. Pretty fun comedic subversion and meta commentary on the slasher and horror genres. I'll take it. It's fine. Is Chud where we get Chud Watch from? It's where the word Chud comes from. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Prototypical example of German Expressionism. Really fun to look at. Really fun movie to look at. It is beautiful in its long shadows, its sets, its surreal atmosphere. Caddyshack. I'm sorry. I know Caddyshack is supposed to be funny. I don't think it's funny. I get it. The whole slobs versus snobs comedy thing was big at the time. I just feel like it hasn't aged well. At least it doesn't pull a Revenge of the Nerds, I'll give them that. El Camino. This is the film that was the follow-up, sort of like a epilogue to Breaking Bad. I love the original show, and I think its ending is perfectly fine, but if you do want a little epilogue on the Jesse story and find out where he wound up, I think it's good for that. Candyman, Day of the Dead. Haven't seen it. Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. Haven't seen it. Original Candyman. Great movie about urban legends, communities being treated like shit because they're primarily minority communities, generational and cultural traumas being carried through all sorts of different eras, and sort of the seduction of evil. I like it. The Candyman sequel that's sort of the sequel to the original, haven't seen it yet. Cannibal Holocaust. Sort of a precursor to the found footage movie, I guess. Hydrate. One of the most famous video nasties. In fact, I believe this was the film where they questioned the director, believing that he had actually taken part in some sort of murder. He didn't, of course. The UK got really weird about horror movies for a period of time. Video nasties, I should explain. If you don't know, there were a series of films that were banned in the UK called video nasties, and they were considered like, these are too violent and horrible to be seen. So it was literally illegal to sell them on home video. And to be clear, let's look at a list of video nasties. Because you might think like, oh, is it like snuff films or something? No. It's not. Here are the movies that were banned. Let me see if I can find ones that are recognizable, because once you see the recognizable ones, it's pretty funny. Blood Feast by Herschel Gordon Lewis, which was from like the 60s. And I get it. Herschel Gordon Lewis movies are gory, but it's cartoonish gore. The Burning, a lot of cannibal movies, like Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Apocalypse. That was its own series. Genre, I should say. Faces of Death. Flesh for Frankenstein. I Spit on Your Grave. Last House on the Left. Night of the Demon. Let's see. I'm one of the Evil Dead. Thank you. The original Evil Dead's on this fucking list. The Fun House. Oh, God. So anyway, yeah, the UK got really fucking weird about this stuff. And it was sad. Christmas Evil. I own that movie. Rosemary's Killer. Prom Night. Basically, they were big weird prudes about stuff and banned a bunch of movies. Blood Feast with the Egyptian guy. Yeah. You're thinking of the right one. I have the box set up there. Captain America Civil War. I really enjoy it. Not enough heroes to really be Civil War, but it's a good Avengers movie, even if it's a Captain America movie. Captain America the First Avenger. Not a great movie in and of itself, but I always like Steve Rogers, and it's nice to see his origins told more or less how they're told in the comics, but in live action. Winter Soldier. Best Captain America movie. I think it really shows off Steve for the character he is, which is to say a character that sure is symbolized by America's colors, but isn't going to just go along with America's bullshit if they're doing bad things. The 1970s Captain America film, I'm sorry, not 70s, that's the other one with the bike helmet. This is the Captain America 1990 film, starring Matt Salinger, who is related to J.D. Salinger. It's not that good. Captain Marvel, it's fine. Captain's Collection, this is just a series of documentaries. William Shatner narrated about different aspects of Trek and Trek culture. It's okay, I don't like William Shatner, but I like interviews about that stuff. Cars, I'm not a fan of Cars. It's probably my least favorite Pixar series that, like, actually got sequels. I know that they do good toy sales, but, like, fuck Cars. I don't like Cars. Casablanca. It's Casablanca. What do you want me to say about it? Play it again, Sam. Case for Christ. Christian propaganda movie with terrible arguments. I don't like the movie, but I reviewed it at one point, so that's why I own it. Casino. It's Casino. Good shit. Not as good as something like Goodfellas, but it's good. Casper. Bill Pullman, Christina Ricci, first film to have a CGI lead character in a live-action film. So good for Casper. The production design, I think, holds up. I think the effect of Casper hasn't aged so poorly that it's unwatchable or anything. I think it's a watchable kids movie. If I had a kid, I'd show him it during the Halloween season. It's kind of spooky, but not too scary for kids. Cat People, a remake of the famous black and white horror film Cat People from the 80s. Haven't seen it. Kathy's Curse. Hold on. I just want to see the part where she calls people a whore. There it is.
Get the hell out of here. You old bitch. How dare you? You can't speak to me like that. Good Lord, the old cow's dead. Get out! Take off! Get up here! Oh, bitch. Oh, bitch. Fat whore. Fat whore. Fat dried up whore. Fat.
If you want to see a little girl swear, and you feel like The Exorcist is too classy for you, I'd recommend Kathy's Curse. Cat's Eye, anthology film based on some of Stephen King's short stories. Very problematic elements in the James Woods segment. Don't even want to go into it, but overall I like it. That part hasn't aged well, though. Holy shit. Halle Berry's Catwoman. It's a terrible movie. It's hilarious. I love it. Chernobyl. Haven't seen it yet. Heard it was great. Chicago. I like this. Not my favorite musical adaptation, but I think it handles the switching between the diegetic world of Chicago and the non-diegetic fantasy stage show. It's fine. Chicken Run. Kind of surprised this movie didn't turn me into a vegetarian as a kid. I like Chicken Run. Children of the Corn sequels. I don't like any of the Children of the Corn movies, but I own all of them. I don't know why. I like owning Stephen King based on stuff. So there it is, all the Children of the Corn movies and the terrible fucking sequels. The Child's Play movies. I love all of the Child's Play movies. I think it does the change from like more serious horror to black comedy back to a mix of the two really well, and it makes me excited to watch the show. Chill Factor. It's a slasher that takes place in winter. I haven't seen it. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Excellent kids mystery series with one of the best theme songs in all of children's animation. Chopping Mall. Great name. Great premise, except I wish the killer wasn't a robot. It should just be a guy. Why is there a robot in Chopping Mall? It should just be a guy with a knife or something. Why does this mall have robots? Christmas Evil. Christmas horror film. You've seen one, you've seen a lot of them. Christmas Story. It's been played to death, but I like Christmas Story. And actually, a Christmas story that came out a few years ago that had the same kid return to play the dad. Not a terrible follow-up. It's certainly not the original, but it's better than the other pseudo-sequels. So, check it out, maybe. Are we almost in the D's? Cinderella. Animation's nice. Story's pretty basic. It's a kid's movie. What do you want me to say? Citizen Kane. I've gone through stages of Citizen Kane where you're like, oh, I've heard that's one of the best movies ever made. And then you're like, oh wait, it's just like one of the most influential, but actually the movie sucks. And now I'm in a more neutral place where it's like, okay, it doesn't suck, and it certainly has historical importance, and the way that they did a lot of the scenes are great. It's not my favorite movie, but I think it holds up for a movie as old as it is. Class of 1999. Another cyber horror. This came out in 1990, and it took place in the future, where the class of 1999 has robot teachers, and the robot teachers, something happens, and they turn on the kids, and the kids have to fight the robot teachers. It's fun. Has some really great practical effects for the robots, in particular at the end. They kill it with a forklift. I'd recommend it. The Rankin Bass Christmas specials. I really enjoy the Rankin Bass stuff, the whole universe of that stop-motion stuff. It's nostalgic, it's heartwarming, it's cozy. Just reminds me of, like, being near a fire near Christmas time. No Class of 84? Apparently not. I don't have that one. Might be on my list. Cloak and Dagger. One of the first movies based on a video game, I think. Haven't seen it. Clock Stoppers. Nickelodeon film. It feels like a Disney Channel original movie with a higher budget, and I mean that in all the best ways. So if you enjoyed early 2000s like Disney animated or Disney live action movies, and you want to see something with that vibe that's actually pretty fun, Clock Stoppers from 2002. Like, there are multiple Smash Mouth songs on the soundtrack. That's the kind of movie this is. Clockwork Orange. I'm trying to think if this is my favorite Stanley Kubrick film. Probably not. It's probably The Shining. But I do like A Clockwork Orange. I understand, and I'm conflicted on some of the scenes in the movie because there's depictions of sexual assault in the movie. I'm not entirely against the idea of inclusion of sexual assault in any film ever, because that feels like you're saying that no one can talk about that subject in the art of filmmaking, and I think that's ridiculous. But also, how you're using it matters. Like, in an exploitation slasher movie, no. I don't think anything regarding sexual assault should come up, because you're just trying to do a fun movie. At the very least, Clockwork Orange is trying to do a commentary on violence and stuff, but they show it very viscerally. That's the point. It's supposed to feel disturbing and visceral. But how far does that explanation go? I don't know. It's for smarter people than me to debate, but something that always comes up when I'm thinking about this movie is, it's such a great movie, but I always think about those scenes and think, would the movie work without them? Probably. Would it have been as impactful? I don't know. Historically, I don't know how you go back in time and think about that, but... Anyway, Close Encounters. Haven't seen it. Cobra Kai. Decent follow-up to The Karate Kid. Cocaine Bear. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. They could have made better use of the Cocaine Bear, but I thought it was funny. Coco. 2017 Pixar film. Really great. The song and the twist made me cry. I'm not gonna lie. Cold War Creatures. Haven't seen these. Color Out of Space. Haven't seen. Color Purple. I know they're remaking this. I think there's maybe a musical version coming out or something. A period drama starring Whoopi Goldberg and a lot of other famous actors and actresses about the struggles of a black woman in, oh gosh, like the turn of the 20th century, I should say, dealing with her abusive father and then husband and everyone around her treating her like shit. Depressing movie, but a pretty good one. I'd say it's good. I think that won an Oscar, or at least was nominated. Eddie Murphy Coming to America. Hilarious. Definitely problematic parts. I'm familiar with the scene with the trans woman. So problematic, but overall a funny movie. Coming to America, the sequel. There were parts that made me laugh, but it felt like a very different movie. Let me put it that way. Community. Haven't seen it yet. Commando. This is sort of the generic idea of an Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. I don't have much to say about it, because again, it's kind of like the platonic ideal of Arnold Schwarzenegger with a gun, shooting people. It's fine for what that is. If you want it with no muss, no fuss, no gimmicks, there it is, Commando. Complete History of Film. This is a, oh god, this is so long. This is a, how many hours? Let me look, it's up here. This is an in-depth series on the history of film. It has 15 chapters, and it is 1,123 minutes long. So I don't know if someone wants to figure out how many hours that is, but it's an incredibly long and in-depth history of film. It's basically like a film history class, but in DVD form. Uh, 18 hours? Yeah. Compliance. A creepy, low-budget movie about a real thing that happened where a prank caller, air quotes, was calling businesses and convincing the managers that he was, like, the police, and made the managers take one of the employees into the other room and, like, strip search her and do all sorts of really shitty things. Based on a true story. Horrifying film about stupid... If you've ever had a really stupid manager that's in charge and they're so frustrating and they keep hurting people or doing things so dumb, but they just won't listen to anyone, that movie will stress you out. Conan, The Complete Quest. The first Conan's fun sword and sorcery adventure. James Earl Jones, decent in it, despite his weird snake thing. Second one's not as good, but the first one holds up. Conjuring universe. I like the Conjuring movies. The spin-offs I haven't really enjoyed. But I like James Wan, so. Contact. Based on the book by Carl Sagan of the same name. Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey star in this film in which they make contact with extraterrestrials for the first time and set about building a machine to communicate, or, I guess, set about building a machine that they have been sent the instructions to, and they don't know what it does. I'd recommend, again, I know I'm just saying I'd recommend a lot of these, but I would. I love movies. Contamination, haven't seen it yet. It is a Spanish language film about aliens from the 80s. Cool as Ice, Vanilla Ice's movie. It's hilarious. It's so corny and stupid, and I feel like even Vanilla Ice knows how embarrassing he is in it. So it's just a good time. Cool Hand Luke, haven't seen it yet. Coraline, another really good kids horror. If you have kids and it's the spooky season, show them Coraline. Crash. God, is this my favorite Cronenberg movie? It might be. Crash is a movie about people who get horny by being in car crashes and watching car crashes. And James Spader is in it, and it's like hot James Spader. It's young, hot James Spader. Fucked up movie. Very good. The Crazies by Romero. It's okay. It's basically another kind of pseudo-zombie movie-ish. It's fine. Crazy Rich Asians. One of my favorite romantic comedies probably to come out in the last decade or so. Thought all the performances were good. That dynamic between, you know, the fiancé as an Asian American and her fiancé's family, who are, you know, from China, or they're in China, they're all Chinese, and the cultural kind of friction that they have. The Creed films, I think they're a decent follow-up to the Rocky series. I don't remember liking the second one as much as the first one, but I definitely like Michael B. Jordan as Adonis. As Donnie. He's good. He's strong-headed, but, like, he's got heart underneath. Still haven't seen Creed. I think it's good. Haven't seen the third one. The Creep Show TV show. I'll just talk about all the Creep shows since they're right here. The original movie. One of my favorite anthology movies. Probably the one that kicked off the 80s trend of having tons of anthology movies and TV shows, particularly in the horror genre. My favorite segment is probably either the ending segment with the roaches, or maybe the Ted Danson one with, oh god, why am I blanking on his name? And Don't Call Me Shirley from Airplane, and that sci-fi movie he was in. Leslie Nielsen. The sequel's not as good, but the lake segment holds up. The TV show's a lot of fun. If you like the Creepshow movies, check out the TV show. Like, it's a really, really nice follow-up homage TV show that continues the same kind of thing. Critters! It's Critters. It's fun. Crocodile Dundee 1 and 2. I hope you like jokes about Australia. The Crucible. Story about McCarthyism. Story about witch hunts, literally and metaphorically. Story about people turning on each other and how repressive societies build up a lot of anger and resentment under the surface that's going to boil over in one way or another. Cruising, haven't seen it yet. Chucky movies, already talked about it. Kuruku, Beast of the Amazon, haven't seen it. Damaged Lives, this is one of the many educational / exploitation films I have. They're all pretty much the same in that it's interesting seeing the social issues that people deemed to be scandalous at the time. Like, oh my goodness, can you imagine the idea of a test tube baby? Scandalous. Danish Girl. There are things that I like about The Danish Girl because it's a movie I saw before I came out. So there are scenes in the movie that as a pre-out-of-the-closet trans woman, I was like, oh, okay. I can see that. I understand the emotion that's being portrayed there because that is an experience that I've had as an in-the-closet trans woman. And then, like, the rest of the movie happens, and I'm just like, why are you infantilizing this fictional trans woman as if she's an idiot that doesn't know anything about what's going on around her? I don't know. Daredevil, director's cut, starring Ben Affleck. Not a good movie, but it's cheesy. And I think that's fun. Early 2000s bad superhero movies I have a soft spot for. Netflix's Daredevil, a much better adaptation of the character. Would recommend. Dark Crystal, saw this for the first time this year. I believe this was Jim Henson's first foray into feature-length filmmaking. This was before Labyrinth. The puppetry work, it goes without saying, is fantastic. I think the designs of the puppets themselves are a little creepy, but I don't think that's unintentional necessarily. And I'm not talking about the bad guys, I'm talking about the main characters, but they're fantasy creatures, so I get it. Dark Knight trilogy, it's fine. Heath Ledger's the only reason I like that trilogy as much as I do, though, and he's only in the one movie. Darkman, it's Darkman, it's fun. David Cronenberg short films, neat if you want to see his work before he worked in Hollywood and worked with theatrical filmmaking. Dawn of the Dead 4K, probably my favorite George Romero zombie movie. I know it's not a hot take. Like, don't get me wrong, Day of the Dead's pretty close. I really do like Day of the Dead, and I think it's underrated. But Dawn of the Dead's the most popular for a reason. I think it hits that sweet spot. Day of the Animals. It's another animals running amok movie. It's fine. Day of the Dead, again, like I said, I think it's underrated. It has the survivors, the few that remain, kind of underground, and the military's in charge. Decent commentary on the military-industrial complex, and that people who see might as being right are the kinds of people who tend to gravitate towards trying to take power away from less angry people. Dead Poet Society. Decent enough drama about Robin Williams inspiring a bunch of students to care about literature. It's a little twee, but that's the kind of movie it is. David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. Haven't seen it yet. That's a new edition. Dead Silence. Not one of James Wan's good movies. It's a bad movie, but it's funny in that early 2000s way. Deadly Friend. Oh look, it's a movie Wes Craven did and didn't want to be a slasher movie, but then they turned it into one, so that's kind of weird. Deadly Games, haven't seen it. Deadly Games Dial Code Santa, haven't seen it. The Deadly Mantis, I brought up the other day. It's a sci-fi horror movie about a giant-ass mantis. Deadpool and Deadpool 2. I like the first Deadpool movie. The second one I think is even better. I like Cable. I get if you hate Deadpool and find him annoying. That's completely fair. I like him, though. At least when he's written competently. Dear Zachary, A Letter to a Son About His Father. Maybe my favorite documentary I own. I can't rightfully tell anyone to watch this because it's going to make you cry and it's going to ruin your life. But if you want to cry forever, go watch Dear Zachary. I have it somewhere. Where did I put that? I gotta find that one. I haven't seen it in a while. Death of Nintendo. This is a coming-of-age film. Was it from the Philippines? I actually haven't watched it yet. I just thought it looked interesting. Death Screams. some of these are so generic in title, I gotta look up the trailer so I remember which slasher movie it is, because there's a decent number of, like, bad slasher movies I own, or, you know, that are just the most generic title. Death Screams, Nightmares, Night Chills, like, The Prey. It's just so generic. You start to lose track, you know?
You made good he and that girl he was dating down on Graham.
You know that.
Okay, I don't think I've actually seen this one. This is the ones I haven't seen yet. Where were we? Deep Impact. Decent late 90s disaster movie film. Morgan Freeman, I think, plays the president in it. It's a pretty good movie about a bunch of scientists trying to solve a problem. Deep Star 6. Haven't seen it yet. Deer Hunter. Depressing. If you want to watch guys play Russian roulette, I guess watch The Deer Hunter. Defending Your Life is one of my favorite comedies, and also one of the best comedies I've ever seen in terms of just also being a really well put together film with, like, a solid script. Production design, acting, everything feels very legitimate, like it takes itself seriously. Defending Your Life is all about a guy who dies, goes to the afterlife. It's not any particular religious afterlife. It's not like Christian heaven or anything. It's just, when you die, you go to this place, and you have a trial, basically. And during this trial, they will determine whether or not you're ready to go on to whatever comes after this, or if you go back to Earth to learn more and to become a better person. It's also a rom-com. Please watch it. It's genuinely one of my favorite movies. Deliverance. Talked about this recently, too. One of the only films to depict male sexual assault and take it seriously. Good movie, hard to watch. Demolition Man. Fun, dystopian, action comedy. Seashells. We all know the joke. Rob Schneider's in it, so that sucks. But you take what you can get. Over the Top. That's what you'll get. It is a cheesy movie about Sylvester Stallone's character being in the world of professional arm wrestling. It's as fun as it sounds. Corny. Denial. A difficult watch, but I think a good one. All about the trial that took place in the UK, I want to say in the 90s, where a Holocaust denier tried to sue a historian because she called him a Holocaust denier and, you know, pointed out that he's a piece of shit, etc. And he sued her for, like, slander, so it basically turned into a trial about whether or not the Holocaust happened. Of course it did, Jesus Christ. But it's just like a... I don't know. It's a drama about how heartbreaking and difficult it is to sit down and actually have to argue with fucking pieces of shit like that. The Dentist. I've only seen the first Dentist movie, though there are two. It's a slasher movie about a dentist. So if you want a slasher movie that's primarily predicated upon mouth stuff, that's the movie for you. The Dexter TV show. First 4 seasons are great. After that, not so much. The first Die Hard movie, one of my favorite movies. Excellent movie. Before you ask, yes, it's a Christmas movie. Everyone knows that. The other movies, Die Hard 2's watchable. It's fine, but it's not good. It's just a repeat of the first one, but worse. Die Hard 3's fun. Okay. Die Hard 4, I actually like Die Hard 4, but it doesn't really feel like a Die Hard movie. It just feels like a different action movie. Still never seen 5. Dinosaur doesn't hold up. Dinosaurus, haven't seen it. Dirty Dancing, I think this movie holds up. It's a movie, it's kind of a boomer nostalgia movie, where it takes place in like the 50s, and it's about romance and stuff. Also has issues like abortion, which I was pretty shocked the first time I saw it, that was a plot point in the movie. She's probably 16, I don't know though. Don't know for sure. District 9. Kind of surprised we never got an official sequel to this. I liked District 9. I know it has a lot of social commentary on, like, apartheid in South Africa, and all that stuff's great. But I also just want to say the character creature designs are pretty excellent, so kudos for that. Django Unchained. My favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. Probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. In this movie, I thought the violence was 2.5 hours and I'm on the D's. In fairness, all the letters don't have as many. Like, let me look at we're on page 9. How many pages do I have overall? Oh god, we're gonna have to start lightning rounding like fucking crazy. Oh my god. 36 pages. We got this. We got this by the ass. Okay. Whew. Anyway, Django Unchained. Favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. Jamie Foxx is excellent in it. Leonardo DiCaprio is a great villain in it. And we all know someone like that who thinks they're smarter than they are and they're really pretentious. Christoph Waltz, also excellent. Check out Django. Do the Right Thing. Haven't seen it. Do You Believe? Another bad Christian movie I reviewed. Dr. Sleep. You can't really do a direct sequel to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining and expect it to go well. Like, no one's gonna compare it favorably, ever, for obvious reasons. But I think it's fine. If you're gonna do a sequel to The Shining, you could do worse. It's watchable. Limit to 5 words. Some of them I'm gonna, we're gonna glance over some. Doctor Strange. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, but especially in the first movie, his American accent is terrible and incredibly distracting. But a lot of the visuals in that movie are nice, so I'll take it. Also, the fact that he beat Dormammu the way he did, better than most ending of Marvel movies with a big CGI fight. At least this involved the concept of tricking him in some way. Sure, it still involves CG in a fight, but at least there's some element of strategy going on. Multiverse of Madness. Kinda was hoping for more multiverses, but it was cool seeing some alt-universe characters. Doctor Who. Let's just do the entirety of Doctor Who all at once. Doctor Who fucking rocks my socks. That's my review of Doctor Who. Please watch it. Dodgeball. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it when I was a kid. Don't know if it holds up. Probably dude bro comedy, but whatevs. Dogtooth. Yorgos Lanthimos' was this his first theatrical film? Either way, really good horror suspense movie about a group of, I want to call them kids, but they're not kids, they're adults, who have basically been trapped by their parents in the house, and they've never been allowed in the outside world. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Check it out. Dolomite. Dolomite's fun. Rudy Ray Moore, if you don't know, was a guy who saw white producers making a ton of money off blaxploitation movies and was like, fuck it, I can do that. And he did. He did Dolomite, Petey Wheatstraw. Oh god, what are the other ones? There's like a 4-film box set you can get. They're pretty corny and fun. Dollface. This was one I picked up at the dollar store. If you ever want to find really bad movies because you think they're funny, hot tip. Go to the dollar store. A lot of dollar stores, not as many now, but a decent number have like bins of DVDs or even Blu-rays sometimes that are like $1. Maybe pick some out sometime. Dollface was terrible and hilarious. Like, a third of the film was just B-roll footage of a creepy house full of dolls. Like, you could tell they made the movie specifically because someone was like, holy shit, I have access to my grandma's house and it's full of dolls and it's so creepy. We should make a movie here. And that's what they did. Dollhouse. Only saw season 1, but I enjoyed it. Sorry, my wife texted me. I see you. Dolly Dearest. In terms of random killer doll movies, it's not too bad. The premise is a family moves to Mexico because the dad becomes the manager of a toy factory, and the toy factory is, like, above a buried, like, Incan or Aztec burial ground or, like, god shrine, and it comes to life and takes over the doll and tries to get them to restart making the dolls, so the dolls go to people's houses and they're all full of the spirits. It's fine. Donnie Darko. Depressing film, but also great. Depressing and great. Don't Breathe. I was surprised by this. This was a lot better than I thought, and boy howdy, when that guy gets a tube full of cum down his throat, I did not expect that. This is a movie where a full-grown man gets a turkey baster full of his own semen shoved directly down his throat. And boy, is it good. Don't Open Till Christmas, another Christmas horror movie. You know what it is. Doom Asylum. Literally watched this with my wife last night. I loved it. It was terrible. It was so fucking bad, and I loved it. The plot makes no sense, and honestly, it feels like a self-parody. It's definitely tongue-in-cheek in terms of the tropes of the slasher genre. Check it out. Downfall, my favorite film about Hitler. Probably my favorite, like, docudrama or just drama about Hitler. Like, the real person Hitler. The performance by Bruno Ganz is, to this day, I can't think of a person who's played Hitler better. Like, when I watch him in this movie, I don't think that guy's playing Hitler. Because Hitler is so distinct, you know? When you see Hitler in a movie, you see the actor most of the time because he got such a distinct look. Even an actor dressed as Hitler looks like an actor dressed as Hitler, you know? Because Hitler has a very distinct look. Bruno Ganz, during this movie, and I don't know if it's his looks, or the mannerisms, or the costume department, or what. Maybe it's just the performance, because the performance is truly great. I don't see him playing Hitler. When I watch that movie, to me, he's just Hitler. And it is a deeply disturbing performance. Like, you're gonna... Because you know it's based on a real guy, you know? And the things he says are based on first-hand accounts from the bunker. This is about his last days. So just knowing that a madman like that and his fascist, like, friends had control of a large portion of the world, horrifying that that's something that really happened and can always happen again. Anyway, the Doctor Who movies, they're not the show, but they're interesting to look at, alternate Doctor Who universe. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, both versions. The original animated version, that's the short, probably the more succinct, better adaptation that's close to the source material. But I'm not gonna lie, I like the Jim Carrey Grinch Who Stole Christmas. That's my millennial sin, is enjoying the Jim Carrey How the Grinch Stole Christmas. We have the various other Dr. Seuss animated features, the Lorax, Green Eggs and Ham, Horton Hears a Who. Those also have different things in them respectively, like the Sneeds and different, like, or the Starbelly, yeah, the Starbelly Sneeches and the Bear Belly Sneeches or whatever. A lot of those animations are in there, and I like a lot of the Dr. Seuss animations from that period. 70s Doctor Strange movie, corny but boring. Doctor Strangelove. What else do I say about it? It's a Stanley Kubrick film that's a dark, dry comedy about nuclear war. You can't argue fighting here. This is the war room. On the nose, but perfect. Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. Dramatized events of Bruce Lee's life. It's fine. Dragonheart. It's got a dragon. That's pretty cool. Dragon Slayer. He slays a dragon. That's pretty cool, too. Dread. I enjoyed it. On second viewing, it wasn't good as it was the first time I watched it, but I still do wish this had gotten a sequel. I'd like to have seen what could have been done with this version of the Dread character, because it's a pretty good adaptation. Drive Through Delirium. This is kind of cool. I don't think I've talked about this one before. Where do I have it? This is a Blu-ray of... This is a 6-disc set, and it's all trailers for horror and action and sci-fi movies from the 70s, like early 2000s, I think. It's 6 discs, and this is 30 hours. This is 30 hours of trailers remastered in HD. I like that kind of stuff. If you're having a Halloween party or something, probably a good thing to put on in the background on the TV or whatever. People don't have to pay attention to it, but it's just kind of background noise and imagery. Hi, honey. Driven. It is the movie about the John DeLorean scandal. Haven't seen it. Drop Dead Fred. I like Phoebe Cates. I like this movie. But oh boy, are there weird things, and I can't tell who it's for. Hi.
Hi. I was literally just I hadn't seen Lou in a long time, and I was coming up here to see where she was, and then apparently she's on screen now.
Duel, starring Karen Gillan. Aaron Paul's in it, though I think calling him a starring role would be disingenuous. He's supporting at best. I described this before as like Yorgos Lanthimos had someone rip him off, so it's not quite as good, but it's still trying to do the deadpan thing. I enjoy it. It's a decent dark comedy. It feels like a full feature-length episode of Black Mirror. I love you! Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. This is a satire, or spoof, I guess I should say, of 80s slasher series. It's made by the crew that did the 5-second movies videos. If you've ever seen 5-second films, they made a whole movie. It's called Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. It's a lot of fun. No, there is not a Dude Bro Party Massacre 1 or 2. That's the joke. The joke is that you are coming into an 80s slasher movie series in the third movie, and you just kind of have to figure out what the plots to the first 2 movies were by the exposition that the characters give about the first movie. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's funny. If you like 80s slashers like I do, you'll like it. It's a loving tribute to the genre. Dudley Do Right. It's the second It's the second best Brendan Fraser movie of the 90s to be a live-action remake of a 1960s children's animated show. George of the Jungle's better. Dumb and Dumber. Dumb but fun. The Mask. Excellent. I love The Mask. Dumbo. I don't remember. I know I've seen it, but I haven't seen Dumbo since I was like 5. He gets drunk. I don't know. Dune. Haven't seen it. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Haven't seen it yet. E.T. It's E.T. It holds up. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. I'm not going to gush over it, but, like, it's a well-made film. E.T. himself is a pretty good puppet. Not my favorite wet puppet. I think he's too dry, but still, in terms of wet puppets, he gets a little wet. How many movies do I own that I haven't seen yet? I don't know an exact number. I'm going through them. Anyway, Earth Girls Are Easy. This is a weird movie in that it has so many people who are about to become famous. This has Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum prior to The Fly. It also has Jim Carrey and Damon Wayans. And it's a musical. Very weird movie. It's all about them coming to Earth to fuck Earth women. Eaten Alive. This is a Tobe Hooper film. Haven't seen it. I just know that Robert Englund is in it, and I believe he made this a little bit before Texas Chainsaw. Ed Wood. Not my favorite Tim Burton movie, but one of my favorite biopics of all time. It's certainly, you know, like all biopics, it takes liberties. But I think if you're gonna stylize and take liberties with a film, just go all the way with it and make it clear that's what you're doing. That's what they did with Ed Wood. Ed Wood is like Ed Wood made a movie about his own life, except competently. 1 second. I have a message. Heh. Sorry, chat. My wife might be flirting with me. Anthony Perkins in Edge of Sanity. Haven't seen it yet. Edge of the Axe. I feel like I've seen this, but it's just another generic in the woods slasher, so I don't know if I remember it that well. Hydrate. Okay, yeah. I've seen this. Rips Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers to pieces. I don't remember it that well. It was fine, from what I remember. Nothing stuck out to me as either really good or really bad. Edge of Tomorrow or Live, Die, Repeat. If you want a Groundhog's Day time loop scenario, but it's like an action movie, this'll do it. It's fine. Edward Scissorhands, enjoyable. I like all the 1950s stuff in Edward Scissorhands. I think, if anything, my least favorite character is Edward. Like, I feel bad for him and stuff. I understand. To me, it just almost makes me roll my eyes, and it's not the fault of this movie as much as it's the fault of Tim Burton becoming self-parody. So whenever I see Edward Scissorhands, Edward is like the prototypical idea of a Tim Burton character. Like, if that character didn't exist and someone was asked to write like a satirical Tim Burton character, you'd be like, he's a really pale guy who is socially awkward and an outcast, and he's played by Johnny Depp, and he can't have human touch because his hands are scissors. Like, that's just, it's so on the nose for Tim Burton's whole thing where he likes to make stories about outsiders and stuff. I don't know. It's fine in and of itself. It's a well-made movie. It makes me sad for who Tim Burton has become. Elektra, it's bad. Elephant Man, it's great. A movie produced by Mel Brooks under... he created a different company to do serious movies because no one would take him seriously because he was the comedy guy. Anthony Hopkins is in this. John Hurt, I believe, plays the titular Elephant Man. Excellent film about discrimination against people who are different, about our fears of people who look different than us. I don't know. Exploitation, but also getting past those things to finding the real person underneath. Yeah. I am not an animal, I am a human being, is a famous line from that. Will Ferrell's Elf. I'd say that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I think it's cute. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I like Elvira too. She's great. Fun movie. Elvis. I like Baz Luhrmann. I'm sorry. I like the highly stylized bullshit. I think the Elvis movie fucking slaps. You know what? I don't even apologize for it. Fuck you. I like Baz Luhrmann. I will not apologize for my love of camp and cheese. Emerald City. This was when a network, I think it was Fox or maybe ABC, tried to do a Game of Thrones to The Wizard of Oz. It's not good, but it's so fascinating. I have it. The Wizard of Oz has been adapted so many different ways over the years. I just find it really interesting. Like, I think just out of the Wizard of Oz things I have Emerald City, I have Tin Man, I have the original 1935 Wizard of Oz, I have The Wiz, I gotta have more, Return to Oz. There's more, too, that I've seen. I find Emerald City and adaptations in general of Wizard of Oz strange, because no one ever knows what to do with them. There's also that prequel with, what's-his-face, who hangs out with Seth Rogen, James Franco, who seems like he's high the whole movie. Emperor's New Groove, one of the funniest animated Disney movies. Just the jokes are, I think, the funniest. The villain's amazing. Was that Eartha Kitt that played, the villain? Sounds like her when I'm thinking about it in my head. Excellent. Haven't seen Kronk's New Groove. It's probably a bad direct-to-DVD sequel. Encanto. Beautiful movie. Enjoyed the songs. Talking about intergenerational trauma. Solid. Really enjoyed it. Though it did get, We Don't Talk About Bruno stuck in my head for about a month, so I'm going to remove a point for that. Escape from Alcatraz. It's about escaping from Alcatraz. Solid movie. Escape from L.A. Not as good as Escape from New York. Escape from New York. Pretty good. Better than Escape from L.A. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I like this movie. I don't know if it's certainly a sci-fi elements with the dream machine and stuff. But the whole conceit of him being trapped within his own memories and trying to hide from the erasure and going through this sort of mind palace thing, the non-linear editing that lets us discover the story as we're going backwards through his memories. I like it. I think it's good. I don't know if I agree with either of the characters. They both have flaws, but it's kind of what the movie's about, isn't it? That life's imperfections are a part of what makes you you, and if you erase all of them, what do you have? Stromboli says, Encanto perfectly exemplifies anarcho-communism, IMO. I don't even know how to begin addressing that. I believe you, but I have not thought about it. Eternals, my least favorite Marvel movie. I'm never going to watch Eternals again, don't ask. Eureka. I like Warehouse 13 better, but Eureka's a fun sci-fi show. Event Horizon. Do you know how badly I want the deleted scenes from Event Horizon to show up somewhere and be remastered? I just want it. I want it so bad. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have two versions of this film. The standard edition 4K, and I also have the A24 collector's edition that comes in like a cloth book format. I have all of their releases of movies like that, and they're gorgeous, but my collection of those is downstairs. I would show it if I had it. One of my favorite movies, period? Like, this is probably the most recent movie I've seen that's on my list of favorite movies. Like, if I had to do a top 10, I'm not sure exactly what it pushed out. I'd have to sit down and really think about it, but, like, one of my favorite movies of the last decade. A24 just absolutely killed it with Everything Everywhere All at Once. All the performances, Michelle Yeoh, and the supporting actor who played her husband, whose name I'm forgetting. I apologize. He won a fucking Oscar. Is it Ke Huy Quan? Ke Huy Quan? Is that his name? He's excellent. I'm glad he's getting recognition again. He deserves it. Fennec Gami says, sorry you all have to check out the VOD sometime. I have to study for a certification test for work. Good luck. The Evil Dead. Not as good as Evil Dead 2, but a pretty good movie, especially considering how cheaply it was done. The tree scene, again, bad call, but other than that, pretty good movie. Evil Dead 2, better than the first one in every way. You can probably skip the first one and go straight to 2, because they basically recapped the first movie at the start of the second movie because of rights issues. Evil Dead remake from, what year was this, 2013? I surprisingly liked this movie. Didn't have Ash, so it is missing that. But I thought Mia was a decent protagonist replacement. Her and her brother kind of both had different qualities that were resembling Ash, and together they do the Evil Dead thing. I enjoyed it. Evil Dead Rise. Haven't seen it yet. Evil Ed. I like horror movies that are definitely made by people who love horror movies and are genre savvy. Evil Ed's a movie that asks the question, like, hey, you know how right-wing reactionaries are constantly saying that if you watch a bunch of violent movies, you're going to turn into a psychopath and kill people? What if we made a movie with that premise? The premise is there's a guy named Ed. He's an editor. The editor. He edits films, and this is back in the day when nothing was digital, so, like, I'm literally talking about he has reels of film that he is, like, going through and cranking by hand and then cutting and splicing manually. And he cuts together horror movies, and throughout the course of the movie, he loses it and starts killing people himself based on the things he saw in these movies. Famously, there's a line in the movie. I'll just play it. This is him, like, kind of losing it while he's editing stuff. Molestin' time. The character in the movie within the movie said molestin' time. This movie has a lot of gags where, like, you don't necessarily... There are a few scenes where you see the movies he's editing, like the movies in the movies. A lot of the time, though, the gag is you just hear lines from it, and it's the most ridiculous, over-the-top nonsense. That's the joke. Also, David Cronenberg's The Fly poster. Nice.
Listen.
What the fuck happened to my beaver rape scene?
Sam calling Edward. Come in, Edward. Now get that neighbor shit out of your head. We have some serious business to discuss.
I'm listening.
I want you to answer a simple question. Can you do that for me? And tell me this. Where in the fuck is my beaver rape scene?
It's out, of course.
Are you nuts? That scene's worth a fortune. Oh my God. This guy's a couple of cans short of a six-pack. There was no sexually explicit footage in that scene. No tits, no cocks, no pussy, no obscene body movements.
So that's Evil Ed. That movie's... If you've never seen, like, a trashy slasher movie before, you're not gonna get it. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're already very familiar with the world of this trashy bullshit, because it's poking fun at it. It's a pastiche of it, basically. Ex Machina. Great sci-fi film. Good movie about androids, AI, the Turing test. It'd be topical if it came out today. It's still a great movie. It's just interesting if it had come out a little bit later, like now, when we're talking about more generative language models and stuff. Still, good movie. Exorcist. I like it as long as it's not the director cut. I don't like the director's cut of The Exorcist. Not a fan. Expendables. I don't like the Expendables movies. Like, the first one's okay, but oh boy, we get it. You were famous in the 80s. Extraterrestrial Visitors. Another Spanish language movie. It's an E.T. ripoff. Not much more to say about it. Eyes of Tammy Faye. Haven't seen it yet. Docudrama about the real life person, Tammy Faye. I do not have that anymore. One second, I gotta remove this from my collection. Forgot to delete that whenever I turned it in. Face Off. Face Off's one of my favorite action movies. I love Nicolas Cage in it. He's wonderful. And also John Travolta is Nicolas Cage and Nicolas Cage is John Travolta. It's all great. I want another Face Off movie, and it's coming out on 4K soon. Very excited. I have watched Folding Ideas video on the Book of Henry, yes. Yes, I have. Falling Down. It's one of these movies that I like. This is a Schumacher movie. It's very much poking fun at the kind of character that Michael Douglas is playing. But again, it's one of those movies where I think that a bunch of white dudes watched the movie and didn't understand that you're not supposed to like the Michael Douglas character. Have I seen Exorcist 3? I have. Came out on 4K recently. Don't have it, but I've seen it. Family Man, comedy with Nicolas Cage, where he's like a businessman who's single and he wonders what it would have been like if he had stayed with his ex years ago and settled down. He wakes up, magical realism, oh my god, I'm in an alternate universe where I made different decisions and I have children with this woman. It's fine. The Fanatic, starring John Travolta, embarrassing, hilarious. Please watch it. Please watch it, because I want John Travolta to feel embarrassed by how bad that movie is. He really should be. It's terrible. Sorry, just switching these because one of the headphones is dying. Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. I actually think the first Fantastic Four movie, I should say the one that's, you know, this one. There's an earlier Roger Corman one. My favorite Fantastic Four movie isn't on this list, but I do own it, because, again, there's no legal, like, there's no official release. But they sell, like, bootlegs at cons and stuff. Roger Corman's Fantastic Four that was never released actually holds up. If you can find it, I'd recommend it. The first of these Fantastic Four movies from the early 2000s, it's dated, but I think the first one's at least interesting. We're so used to superhero movies having such a formulaic thing these days of, like, they get their powers, they test them for, like, 5 minutes maybe, and then there's the plot of them, you know, doing superhero stuff, only to at some point in the second act meet the villain who's been paralleling them probably since the beginning. I'm thinking Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, in, like, the first Spider-Man movie, that parallel progression of them getting their powers and doing things with them until they finally meet and conflict brews, and then, you know, you get to the climax. The first Fantastic Four movie doesn't do this as much. Most of the movie is them testing their powers. Most of the movie is them, at the beginning, introducing the characters, getting the powers, come back to Earth, realize they have powers, do experimenting, deal with what it's like to have fame, and it's a lot about the interpersonal conflict between the members of the Fantastic Four, which is what it should be, because that's a lot of what the Fantastic Four is about, is the inter-family drama, because they are a family. At least that's how they should be depicted, even if they're not all blood-related, they're certainly a family. And I think that first movie got that. Rise of the Silver Surfer sucked. Like, a lot. And that's a shame. Fantastic Voyage. Decent people shrink down into a person's body movie. 70s sci-fi. Very fun. Farscape. Haven't seen it yet. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Haven't seen it yet. Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. Cheesy 90s animated movie about saving the rainforest with... why am I blanking on his name? Tim Curry is the main villain. He's really who you watch the movie for, is Tim Curry. Even Robin Williams can't really do anything for the movie because it sucks ass. But that's a nostalgia buy for me. I watched it a lot as a kid. Sometimes I forget to take off duplicates when I get the 4K and sell the Blu-ray. Let me make sure I get rid of this one. Delete from collection. There we go. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Unfortunately, the principal turned out to be a pedophile, so that's a stain on the movie, but I think Matthew Broderick's good in the movie. His friend Cameron's a good supporting character, and the whole arc about clearly this is... He's trying to teach Cameron to be less high-strung, and I think that's a nice arc for an otherwise relatively silly 80s teen flick. Fiddler on the Roof, excellent musical, would recommend. Field of Dreams, I think how much you like this is determinant upon how much of an emotional connection you have to the game of baseball, but I don't, and I still think it's a well-made movie, so certainly watchable. Fifth Element, a lot of people love The Fifth Element. I kind of like the world of Fifth Element. I don't like the story of Fifth Element that much. Just don't care. Fight Club, really great movie. Unfortunately, a lot of dude bros don't get the point of it. Final Destination 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think Final Destination overall is an underrated horror series. I know that a ton of people have seen them. There wouldn't be 5 movies at this point if they weren't viewed. But I don't see them talked about as much as a lot of the other horror series out there. I think it deserves kudos for a creative idea. which was originally a spec script for The X-Files. Finding Nemo, great movie. Great kids movie with the theme of, hey, you gotta let your kids grow up. Finding Dory, dog shit. Dog shit sequel pumped out because recognizable franchise. Firefly, only seen the first episode or so. It was good from what I saw. Gotta watch it though. Firestarter, seen it, but it's been so long I may as well not have. I know it's based on the Stephen King story, and I know it's Drew Barrymore, and she's like pyrokinetic. Other than that, don't remember much. Stallone, First Blood. Yep, First Blood. The first Rambo movie. Excellent film. If you're only familiar with Rambo through pop culture and you think of him murdering a bunch of people and being like super soldier guy, that's not what the first movie's about. The first movie's based on a book, and it's an actual drama about a veteran coming home from Vietnam and being treated like shit by a local small-town police department because they're cops. ACAB. And, he basically turns on them, goes into the woods, and they start hunting him, and him, having, like, PTSD flashbacks, starts hunting the cops. So if you've not seen the Rambo sequels, at least watch First Blood. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. The first VCR, I was so excited to get this Blu-ray, because I like little niche documentaries. I'll even show you. I have the goddamn Blu-ray. Oh, I prefer Rocky over Rambo, and it's not even close. Like, if you asked me to compare the first two films of each series, like, if it was just about the first two films of the series, or the first films of both series, rather, I would understand the question, because, like, Rambo and Rocky 1 are both excellent films. I feel like Rambo 2 and 3 are so, like, different, it's hard to even judge. But if I have to as a series overall, Rocky, by far. Rocky's more consistent. Rocky's a lot more consistent. Like, Rocky 5 isn't great, but it's still a Rocky movie. It's still about the same stuff. It's just some bad directorial and writing decisions, I think. But it's not as bad as some of the Rambo stuff. Oh, what I was going to say, though, the first VCR... This is the documentary. I was so excited because, like I said, I like niche documentaries about things that interest me. So, of course, the idea of a documentary about the world's first VCR. Oh, interesting. I shit you not. This is the worst Blu-ray I've ever played in my life. The quality is like a 2005 YouTube video. I'm not joking. Can I find this on YouTube? Let me show you. It's terrible. Oops, sorry. Here's the whole thing. Here's the whole documentary on YouTube, and I bought the fucking Blu-ray of this shit.
The date was Saturday, April 14th, 1956.
That audio is bad. That audio is quite bad for something you sold me on Blu-ray.
2 days before the opening day, recording took live.
All of the audio balancing is off. The sound effects and music are often so loud you can't hear the dialogue.
Including Smith's ideas when he developed...
Terrible. Terrible. This is actually... Someone asked earlier, are there any movies I regret buying? This one. Like, this feels like a scam. Like, I bought this pretty sight unseen because it was one of the partner... companies, ETR Media, that partners with, I think, Vinegar Syndrome and sells stuff on their site. And Vinegar Syndrome puts out great stuff. I don't know how this was allowed on the fucking site. This is garbage. Anyway, back to it. God damn, we are only on F. If we have to go to 4 hours and then pause, fun fact, chat, I didn't schedule any specific thing tomorrow intentionally, just in case. if we have to flow this over into a part 2 tomorrow, get halfway through today and halfway through tomorrow, is that fair? Is that reasonable? If not, it's fine. I just thought I'd ask. Okay, The Fisher King. Like I said, probably my favorite Terry Gilliam movie. Robin Williams is excellent in it. How you feel about how it tackles mental illness is going to vary depending on how much you're willing to accept. Well, it's a movie, but I enjoy it. Fistful of Dollars. Spaghetti Western. Fun stuff. Flash Gordon. I love Flash Gordon. Corny, great, amazing theme song by Queen. Flashdance. Haven't seen it. Flatliners. Incredibly creepy film. From 1990. It has tons of people you've heard of. Even just on screen. Look at who's fucking on screen. Kevin Bacon. Jesus goddamn Christ. Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, William Baldwin, Oliver Platt, Kimberly Scott. So many famous people in this movie. And it's a really well-made film. So check out Flatliners. It's creepy. It's about medical students that kill themselves recreationally and then get brought back to life so they can, like, see the afterlife. Flesh and Fantasy. This is from 1943. I got this because it's one of the earliest theatrical anthology horror films. And that's just cool to own because I love anthology films, so having an early one from almost 100 years ago is pretty cool. I don't know if it holds up. Like, some of the segments are pretty good. Some of them are really bad. Like, there's a segment that's all about, like, a woman who's, like, it's from the 40s, so you can imagine the gender politics at play in this movie. This woman is, like, ugly or feels ugly. She's like, I'm so ugly, no one will ever love me. And then this guy does take an interest in her, and then by the end of the bit, she's beautiful, and, like, the message of that segment of the anthology appears to be, you know what it takes to feel beautiful? Find a good man, sweetheart. Like, it feels very written by a man in the 1940s. Like, I understand, like, an overall message of, like, hey, like, even if everyone doesn't find you beautiful, finding someone who does is a beautiful thing in and of itself. Sure, okay, that's a message you could tell, a bit, condescending, but sure. I don't feel like that's what they were going for. It just felt misogynistic. But, like I said, I find stuff like this interesting. I like old movies like this, not because I agree with them, but because I think that the societal attitudes that you can see reflected in the morals of film and media of the past, I don't know, they're very enlightening. I don't know. For me, that's the easiest way to see directly the way people were feeling, if that makes sense. Like, sure, I can sit down and read that says, like, oh, this is the general social attitudes of the time. For me, it helps to get a tactile, like, real-world example of seeing a movie and being like, oh, okay. I see how society was feeling because this would have played differently at the time. I find it interesting. Sorry, I'm only sighing because I need, like, a deep breath. I've been talking for 3 hours, so much more than I even normally do on stream. Yeah, I'll get you a link to the VCR thing real quick. Oh, sorry, the first VCR. The first VCR. Here it is. Again, I didn't even think, first of all, the actual, like, information in the documentary isn't, like, that interesting. And I like really in-depth information. If someone just wants to, like, info dump on me and it's an interesting topic, I'm so on board. But it felt like someone, like, perused a Wikipedia page and just kind of read it and edited it badly. The Flintstones, I like the production design on the Flintstones because it looks so fake, and it intentionally looks so fake and cartoony. That's what I like about it. I like theme parks a lot, and pretty much all of the sets in the Flintstones give me theme park vibes. and that's why I like that movie. Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas was the one I owned on VHS as a kid, so I'm nostalgic for it. Similar vibes with the sets and stuff. Weirdly, it seems like they had a really high budget for something that I think was... No, it wasn't direct-to-DVD, was it? It was just a bad comedy that came out, I think, in theaters. Either way, the budget seemed higher for some reason, even though they got different actors and actresses. And Martin Short's in it as the Great Gazoo. And I like Gazoo. So. Florida Project. I am absolutely in love with the director of the Florida Project. His name is Sean Baker. Sean Baker has done a ton of movies in the past 5-6 years. Some of his releases include, most recently, Red Rocket. He did, of course, what I was talking about, The Florida Project, Tangerine. Those are the ones that I'm familiar with, at least. He has a knack for making films that feel very grounded and real. I almost want to call it trashy, but I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just don't know how to put this. They feel gross. They feel grimy. And he finds people who aren't necessarily actors or actresses and casts them because he just thinks they'll fit the role. For instance, the lead actress in The Florida Project, she was not an actress. He just found her and thought she would fit the role, and she does. So I'd recommend it. Willem Dafoe's in it. He's excellent. It's about a young girl who lives at a sleazy hotel in Orlando with her kind of deadbeat drug addict mom and all of the things she goes through. I really like that movie. Flowers in the Attic, incest movie. The Fly Collection, I've talked about those a lot recently. My favorite is the Cronenberg one, but I think they're all interesting. The Fog, haven't seen it. A few dollars more. Another spaghetti western. Fun. For All Mankind, a beautiful documentary about the moon landing, has some excellent 4K footage, really mind-blowing to see, and it's always funny to me when I watch it. I think about flat earthers. For the Love of Spock is a documentary made by Leonard Nimoy's son about his father. Pretty touching. I like Leonard Nimoy. I like his work. I enjoy Star Trek, so it's a nice little documentary. Forbidden Love, the unashamed stories of lesbian lives. This is a documentary from Canada from 1992 that does interviews with a lot of women who were, you know, alive during the 50s and 60s and even 70s, and their struggles of being lesbian or attracted to women if they're bi or pan or whatever. Primarily lesbian, though. This movie was made in the 90s, so I think most people who were, you know, women-loving women were probably identifying strictly as lesbian, at least the people in the film, from what I saw. Hydrate. So it has them talking about different relationships that they had when they were younger, what it was like to be in the closet back then. They talk about their relationship with, like, scandalous pulp novels at the time that involved themes of lesbianism, and it's pretty good. I enjoy it. It's a good documentary about sort of queer history in Canada. Forbidden Planet. Leslie Nielsen in a role where he's serious, which he famously did before he was famous for the spoof movies. It's good. It has that goddamn robot. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Unfortunately, this was one of my favorite comedies until it turned out like everyone in the movie was a piece of shit. But it happens. Forrest Gump. It's Forrest Gump. I enjoy it enough. It's fine. Fortress of America. It's about a group of people banding together to fight a group of, like, neo-Nazis that have made a fortress outside their town. Corny action stuff. Michael Keaton as the founder. It's all about the founder of McDonald's, or I guess the McDonald's Land Holding Corporation, and how he was a shitbag that ripped off the actual owners and creators of McDonald's, the McDonald brothers. Framing John DeLorean, documentary about DeLorean. Frankenhooker, haven't seen it. Friday the 13th. I've talked about all those movies at length. They're fun, they vary in quality, but I love the Friday the 13th series. Frighteners, haven't seen it. This is probably the last page before we call it for the night, and I start back up tomorrow, by the way. We'll start earlier in the day, so I have plenty of time. I really wasn't thinking it through when I planned this to start at 5, and then the power went out, which pushed it even later. So tomorrow we're probably going to start closer to like 2 p.m. Eastern, as opposed to, yeah. From Beyond, I absolutely love this. Stuart Gordon movie. He also did Reanimator. I love his work. Jeffrey Combs. I wish he was in more stuff, but he's in tons of Star Trek. He's good in this. I like him better as Herbert West, but he's still really great in From Beyond. And I think the effects in From Beyond are a lot better than Reanimator. As much as I like Reanimator, From Beyond's got some great visual effects going on. Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo. Haven't seen it, but again, it's like a slasher movie, but it's like a Yeti. It's a Yeti slasher movie. Frozen. What do you want me to say about Frozen? I'm sure your kids have made you watch it about 10 trillion times. Some of the songs are great. It's animated well. It's cute. But I think we're all sick to death of Frozen. It's been so merchandised. Frozen 2. See Frozen 1. The Funhouse. Haven't seen it. Galaxy Quest. One of the best Star Trek movies, even though it's not a Star Trek movie. Gamera. I'll give it this. I like Godzilla. I own these Gamera sets and almost all the Godzilla movies except for the 2 that are really hard to get because they're expensive and out of print. Gamera has fewer films, but I think on average they hold up. Like, there's a lot of Godzilla movies, but there are some Godzilla movies that are absolute fucking stinkers. Like the one where, was it Son of Godzilla? The one where it's the kid's fantasy, where he's on Monster Island and Godzilla's son teaches him to fight bullies. That one's goddamn terrible. Gamera does the whole save the kids thing, but it's a little more what it was the whole time. I don't know. Gamera's good. He's never going to be Godzilla, but I would like to see him fight someday. Gaslight, famous for being the progenitor of the phrase gaslighting. It is a thriller, suspense movie about a woman and her new husband moving into her aunt's house. She was murdered in the home, and it's her moving in there with her new husband and feeling like she's being lied to and being told she's crazy, even though she doesn't think she is. If only we had a word for that. Gattaca, excellent sci-fi movie about potential horrific futures of genetic engineering and sorry, I'm blanking right now. I've been talking for so long. Eugenics, that's the word I'm thinking of. Horrific dystopian eugenics society based on genetic engineering. Good movie. George of the Jungle. I love George of the Jungle. I still think it's a hilarious movie. Brendan Fraser is amazing in it, and I still think Brendan Fraser is amazing in this. Like, he's not only... And here's why I think Brendan Fraser is attractive, personally. George of the Jungle is one of the most healthy masculine figures in child fiction in the 90s. Like, there's not an ounce of toxic masculinity in George, and it's so wonderful. So, yes, Brendan Fraser, attractive, especially in the 90s. But that's not what I think makes Brendan Fraser attractive. I think it's that he consistently plays really affable, lovable characters, and I think that's exemplified in this scene. Ursula has been trapped here in the jungle accidentally, and George is sort of like a Tarzan-type character. He was raised by apes in the jungle, and this is the first human woman he's ever seen in his life since he was a baby, since he can't remember. And she feels awkward, and this is how he is when he wants her to dance.
Something good always happen after. George's just lucky, I guess. Stupid for? Something good.
Can we start it a little bit earlier? There.
What? Juju? Wanna see?
Good luck.
George pulled tooth.
Did you fight a crocodile for this?
Oh, no, George not fine. Crocodile have toothache. George pulled tooth. Crocodile give to George after. Gift. Good juju.
Juju?
Good luck. Protection.
I have something like that too. Want to see?
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth anything. I found it in a cereal box when I was 10 years old. It's my good luck. My juju. Can I?
Oh.
I want you to have that.
For George? That's the nicest present George ever got. Thank you.
Alright, man. Yeah.
It's dancing time.
Ursula, want to dance?
Oh, no. Thanks. I'd be too embarrassed.
What mean embarrassed?
That's when you feel stupid in front of other people. You know, like they're judging you. You've never felt that?
No. There are no other people.
Good point.
George not feel stupid. Sometimes George smash into a tree. And sometimes... Sometimes George fall out of treehouse. But not feel stupid. Something good always happen after. George's just lucky, I guess. No people here to look stupid for. Just George.
Like a simple question, looking for an answer. Now I am a whale, listening to
No, it holds up. It's a good movie.
Swimming blindly to throw myself upon your shore. What if I don't find you when I have landed? Would you leave me here to die?
Yeah, she's going fucking sploosh. No, but it is really cute. He's just so affable, and that's I think that movie taught me something so important, and it's that, like, sure, it's, you know, attraction starts a lot of the time with looking at someone and being like, oh wow, they're cute, or they're handsome, or they're whatever. But like real infatuation and love isn't about that. It's about having fun with the person you're with and being entirely comfortable with them, and not having, you know, the layers of masks and bullshit you normally have with people out in the world. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I always think about that scene. There's no one here to look silly for, just George. I think that's a good way to go about your relationships, you know? It's okay, everyone's silly sometimes. That's fun. We should all be lucky to have someone who can be silly with and have fun without worrying about what other people think. That's nice. Good message. Anyway, George of the Jungle holds up. Check it out if you haven't. It's on Disney+. Patrick Swayze's Ghost. Sexy pottery. Ghost Dad. Do I need to talk about Ghost Dad? It's a bad movie, and the guy in it is a criminal, and he's a piece of shit. Fuck you, Ghost Dad. Ghost Rider collection. I want Nicolas Cage to come back as Ghost Rider in the MCU so bad. And to be clear, I don't need him to be the main Ghost Rider, because right now in the comics anyway, Robbie Reyes is the Ghost Rider that's most popular in the comics, not Johnny Blaze anymore. So honestly, just retroactively say that this was the MCU all along, and just have Robbie Reyes come and be the new Ghost Rider like he is in the comics, and then at some point, when he's trying to figure out what's going on, he can go visit, you know, oh, there's a guy who will know about this, knock on the door, it's Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze. Nick Cage Ghost Rider is canonically gave Ghost Rider powers to the MCU Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Really? How did they establish that? Did they show a picture of him or something? Anyway, I like Nick Cage. Sorry. I just want a good Ghost Rider movie, damn it. Ghost Rider's cool. Ghost Rider's fucking sweet. Although, I think his name should have been Daredevil. Daredevil's a better name for Ghost Rider than Daredevil. Right? Just thematically. Anyway. Ghost Ship. Trash. I love it. A Ghost Story. Beautiful. I love it. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Still haven't seen it. Ghostbusters. I like the first Ghostbusters. Holds up. I like Ghostbusters 2 as well. Vigo's fun. I like the goo. Bill Murray doesn't give a shit in the second one, which is annoying, but whatever. Ghostbusters 2016, aka Ghostbusters Answer the Call. This got shit on so disproportionate to the movie. I don't like the 2016 Ghostbusters, and I agree that it's not really funny. It's really bad improv most of the time. In my view, it's fine if you like it. I don't like it. But also, hydrate. It basically is impossible to criticize reasonably because there's so many goddamn people who are upset about the movie simply because it was cast with women. And that's frustrating, because you can, like, not like the movie and not be a sexist shit. So whatever. Ghost Heads. Literally a documentary about Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters fans. Ghost House and Witchery. Haven't seen them yet. Ghoulies. It's Ghoulies. They're in your turlet. Girl Gang, another exploitation film. I like exploitation educational films from the 50s. They're silly. Girl on the Train. Good mystery thriller. I enjoy that. The twist actually surprised me a little bit. Not gonna say more, but it's good. Let's see. This is a collection of different, like, Girls' Night In movies. Bridesmaids. I love Bridesmaids. I think it's hilarious. I've not seen Girls Trip. I like Pitch Perfect. I liked Trainwreck. Trainwreck took that trope. Usually in rom-coms, there's the trope of, like, there's the nice woman, and then there's the guy who's got a lot of problems he needs to work on before the relationship can work. This flips that. Amy Schumer's the one that has, like, issues. I don't know. I thought it was funny. Not seen Girls Trip. Girls Night Out. I put this on and basically forgot most of it because it was so generic. I like, watched a decent bit, and then I got in my phone, and I was just, like, not paying attention. It was so generic slasher. Maybe I need to watch it again. Just didn't click with me for whatever reason. Mean Girls, Clueless, and She's the Man. Mean Girls, again, one of the funniest teen comedies. I love that movie. Holds up to this day. Clueless, I haven't seen. She's the Man, also haven't seen. Gladiator and Braveheart. It's been so long since I've seen Gladiator. I'm not huge on historical, classical dramas. But, like, it's probably fine. I just don't remember it that well. Braveheart, I know it's historically inaccurate, but it's a cheesy 90s thing. Come on. The part where he's like, they can't take our freedom! And also, fuck the English, so... Glass. Oh boy. My disappointment is palpable. The Godfather Part 2, and The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which is basically the director's cut to Godfather 3 that was put out a couple years ago. I've not seen the Godfather films. I got them because, of course, I intend on watching them. I haven't seen them yet. I'm sorry. God's Not Dead 1, 2, and 3. They're terrible. Again, I reviewed them. At least the first one's funny. The rest are just boring. Godzilla King of the Monsters. Fun monster brawl. The entire, like, first era of Godzilla films. I like the Godzilla series. Starts out serious. Gets silly. Like all of them. They're fun. Well, Godzilla Raids Again isn't great, but, like, the rest are pretty good. Godzilla Raids Again just kind of feels like a shitty second movie in between the serious first one and when it starts to get cornier. Feels like an awkward place for it. Then I got my other goddamn Godzilla movies. Alright. Page 14. Welp, we are like halfway through the pages, though, so that's good. We're only on the G's, but we got it almost halfway through the pages. So we're going to call it a night, and we're going to pause on page 14. And tomorrow, at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to continue and finish this up. I didn't expect it to take this long. I'm fucking verbose about movies. Did you guys know that? Jesus Christ. Shin Godzilla is good. I loved Shin Godzilla. Oh no, we don't get to talk about Good Burger today. How will you all sleep not knowing how I feel about Good Burger? Or Grey Gardens. We've talked about Grey Gardens. You know my feelings on Grey Gardens. Alright, let's see who we're gonna raid. Like I said, tomorrow we'll be doing part 2 of this. Sorry we didn't start earlier today. I promise if we do something like this in the future, I'll take better consideration of how long it's gonna take me to do it. Oh, we haven't rated Thanks Internet in a while. How long until back? 9:05, 9:15. It's been a while. Who's on screen right now? Willow? Okay. I have to pee so bad. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow, where we will finish this up, and then Friday we have our next goal. So I'll see you then, guys. Adios, guys, gals, non-binary pals. I have a mystery to go solve with my gang. The mystery is who we're going to sell drugs to. We're that kind of gang. Bye! Love you, Mr. Blast. That's a joke, by the way. I don't sell drugs.